When a third-grade teacher shows up to a blind date dressed to scare men away, she never expects the billionaire in the sharp suit to sit down anyway, or to fall in love with the life she's hiding. Lena Parker learned the hard way that trust is expensive, that good men are myths, and that survival means keeping everyone at arm's length. But Ethan Vale isn't looking for perfect. He's looking for real. And when his world of private jets and family empires collides with her world of secondhand books and unpaid debts, they'll both have to decide, is love worth the risk when the whole world is watching? If you're watching from somewhere in the world right now, drop a like and comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The coffee shop smelled like cinnamon and regret. Lena Parker sat in the corner booth, her hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee she hadn't touched in 20 minutes. The ceramic was still warm, but her fingers felt cold anyway. She'd dressed carefully that morning, which is to say she'd dressed to repel. Oversized gray sweatshirt with a faded university logo she'd never attended. Jeans with a hole in the knee that wasn't fashion, just wear. Hair pulled back in a ponytail so tight it gave her a headache. No makeup, no jewelry. Nothing that said try or hope or please like me. She looked, intentionally, like someone who had given up because she had. The blind date had been a mistake from the beginning. Her best friend Claire had set it up, ambushing her during lunch in the teacher's lounge with that dangerous combination of persistence and concern that Lena had learned to recognize as a losing battle. "You can't hide forever," Claire had said, stabbing a fork into her salad with unnecessary violence. "It's been 2 years, Lena. 2 years since Jason, and you haven't been on a single date." "I've been busy," Lena had replied, not looking up from the stack of spelling tests she was grading. "Teaching third graders to read takes time." Teaching third graders to read is your excuse for everything. You know what else takes time? Living your actual life. Lena had tried to argue. She'd tried to explain that she wasn't hiding, she was healing, that there was a difference between being alone and being lonely, that she'd learned her lesson about trusting charming men with easy smiles and empty promises. But Claire had deployed her secret weapon, the guilt trip wrapped in genuine worry. "Just one date," she'd pleaded. "One coffee. If it's terrible, you never have to see him again. If it's terrible, I'll never set you up again." "But Lena, you can't let Jason win. You can't let what he did turn you into someone who's afraid to try." So here she was, trying, sort of. The matchmaker, some friend of Claire's sister who apparently did this professionally, had been vague about the details. "He's successful, kind, and looking for something real," she'd said over email. "He values honesty and doesn't play games." Lena had read that email 3 times, searching for the catch. Successful probably meant he had a decent job and an inflated ego. Kind probably meant he'd wait until the second date to reveal his collection of red flags. And doesn't play games was code for plays games, but thinks he's subtle about it. She checked her phone. 6:47 p.m. He was late. Of course he was late. She should leave. She should finish her coffee, walk out the door, text Claire that she'd tried and it hadn't worked out, and go home to the small apartment where her cat was probably destroying the couch cushions. She should cut her losses before they started accumulating. But something stubborn in her chest, some tiny, foolish ember of the person she used to be, kept her in the booth. The door chimed. Lena didn't look up immediately. She'd learned not to make eye contact with every man who walked into a room, not to project hope onto strangers who had no obligation to fulfill it. She kept her gaze on her coffee mug, watching the dark surface ripple slightly from the movement of other customers. Footsteps approached. Confident, steady. The kind of walk that belonged to someone who knew exactly where they were going. "Lena?" The voice was deep, warm, with an edge of uncertainty that surprised her. She looked up. The man standing beside her booth was not what she'd expected. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair that looked professionally styled but slightly mussed, as if he'd been running his hands through it. Sharp jawline, gray eyes that seemed to assess and understand in the same glance. He wore a charcoal suit that fit too well to be off the rack, paired with a crisp white shirt open at the collar. No tie. Expensive watch catching the light. He looked like money. Old money or new money, or the kind of money that didn't bother making distinctions. He looked nothing like the kind of man who would show up to a blind date with a woman dressed like she'd raided a donation bin. "Yes," Lena said carefully. Ethan? That's me. He smiled, and it transformed his face from intimidating to almost boyish. Mind if I sit? She gestured to the opposite bench, watching him as he slid in with an easy grace that suggested he was comfortable anywhere. He set a leather messenger bag on the seat beside him, the kind that cost more than her monthly rent, and folded his hands on the table. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Lena waited for the disappointment to show in his expression, the subtle shift when he realized she wasn't what he'd been hoping for, the polite smile that would precede the polite exit. But Ethan's expression didn't change. If anything, he looked relieved. I'm going to be honest with you, he said, and Lena's stomach clenched because that phrase never preceded anything good. I wasn't sure you'd actually show up. Why wouldn't I? The words came out more defensive than she'd intended. Because I asked the matchmaker to keep my details vague, and most people don't appreciate mystery. He paused. Also because I'm 15 minutes late, and punctuality usually matters to people who actually want to be here. Lena blinked. You think I want to be here? You showed up, didn't you? I showed up dressed like this, she countered, gesturing to her sweatshirt. Does this look like someone who wants to be here? Ethan's smile widened. Actually, yes. It looks like someone who's testing whether I'm worth the effort of trying. Damn. He was perceptive. Maybe I just didn't feel like trying, Lena said, but the edge had left her voice. That's fine too. Ethan leaned back slightly, the picture of ease. For what it's worth, I appreciate the honesty. I've been on too many dates where everyone's wearing masks, literal and metaphorical. Something in Lena's chest loosened, just slightly. You say that like you've been on a lot of bad dates. More than I'd like to admit. He caught the eye of a passing server, ordered a black coffee, no sugar, no cream, just like hers, and turned his attention back to Lena. So here's my proposal. We skip the part where we pretend to be people we're not, and we just talk. Honestly. If it's terrible, we finish our coffee and never speak again. If it's not terrible, we see what happens. Lena studied him, searching for the angle, the game, the hidden agenda. She found none. Why would you want to skip the pretending part? She asked. Isn't that the point of first dates? To show your best self? I don't need someone to fall in love with my best self, Ethan said quietly. I need someone who can handle my real self. There's a difference. The server returned with his coffee. Ethan thanked her with genuine warmth, waited until she'd left, then wrapped his hands around the mug in a mirror of Lena's posture. Okay, Lena said slowly. Honestly then, why are you here? And don't say you're looking for something real. Everyone says that. Fair point. Ethan took a sip of his coffee, considering. I'm here because I'm tired of dating people who want me for the wrong reasons. I'm here because I have a daughter, and I need to know that anyone I bring into my life is going to respect that she comes first. I'm here because the matchmaker said you were a third-grade teacher who loves books and doesn't suffer fools, and that sounded like someone I'd actually want to talk to. Lena's breath caught. You have a daughter? 7 years old, Emma. His expression softened in a way that made Lena's chest ache. Smartest, most stubborn kid you'll ever meet. She's with my brother tonight, probably convincing him to let her stay up past bedtime. You're a single dad. Widower, actually. Her mother passed when Emma was 2. He said it matter-of-factly, but Lena could hear the old grief underneath. So yeah, single dad, full-time, no nanny, no ex-wife sharing custody, just me and Emma figuring it out together. Lena set down her coffee mug carefully, processing this new information. A widower. A father, someone who understood loss and responsibility and the weight of showing up every day even when you didn't want to. Someone who maybe understood her better than she'd expected. I'm sorry, she said. About your wife. Thank you. It was a long time ago, but he shrugged. Some things you carry. Yeah. Lena looked down at her hands. Some things you do. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who both knew what it meant to survive something that should have broken them. Your turn, Ethan said gently. Why are you here, besides the fact that a friend probably bullied you into it? Lena laughed, startled. How did you? You're dressed like you're trying to fail a test on purpose. That's not someone who wants to be on a date. That's someone who agreed to be on a date to prove a point to someone else. My friend Claire, Lena admitted. She thinks I've been hiding too long. Have you? The question was direct but not unkind. Lena considered lying, considered deflecting, considered giving him the sanitized version of her life that didn't include fraud and betrayal and the kind of financial devastation that still woke her up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat. But Ethan had been honest. He'd talked about his daughter, his wife, his grief. Maybe she could offer something real too. 2 years ago I was engaged, she said, to a man I thought I knew. We were planning a wedding, talking about kids, building a life together. She paused. Then I found out he'd been using my name to open credit cards, taking out loans, running up debt I didn't know existed. When I confronted him, he disappeared, left me with $60,000 in bills I didn't charge and a criminal investigation I had to fight to clear my name from. Ethan's expression darkened. Jesus. I got through it, mostly. The legal stuff is done, but the debt? She shook her head. Let's just say teaching third grade doesn't pay enough to dig out of that hole quickly. So no, I haven't been dating, I've been surviving, and trusting people feels like a luxury I can't afford. But you're here. But I'm here, she echoed, dressed like this, making it as hard as possible for this to work. Because if you're going to run, I'd rather you do it now. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his gray eyes searching her face. Then he said, I'm not running. You don't know me. I know you got destroyed by someone you trusted and you're still showing up. I know you work with kids, which means you believe in people even when they disappoint you. I know you're honest enough to tell a stranger on a first date that you're broke and broken, which takes more courage than most people have. He leaned forward slightly. I know enough. Lena's throat felt tight. You're either very kind or very stupid. Maybe both. Ethan's smile returned. But I'd like to find out. What do you say we start over? No masks, no games, just two people with complicated lives seeing if they can make each other laugh. And despite everything, despite the debt and the fear and the certainty that this would end badly because everything did, Lena found herself smiling back. Okay, she said. Let's try. They talked for 2 hours, not about anything profound or earth-shattering, just life. Ethan told her about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs, how she'd memorized every species and liked to correct the museum guides on their pronunciation. Lena told him about her students, about the little boy who'd finally learned to read last month after struggling all year, about the girl who brought her handmade friendship bracelets every Monday. Ethan asked about her favorite books. Lena asked about his work, and he gave vague answers that suggested businessmen but didn't specify what kind. She didn't push. Everyone had things they kept private on first dates. They discovered they both hated action movies and loved old bookstores, that they both took their coffee black and thought brunch was overrated, that they both had siblings who worried too much and friends who meddled with good intentions. When the coffee shop started closing around them, Lena realized she'd laughed more in 2 hours than she had in 2 years. Outside, the spring air was cool and soft. Streetlights cast amber pools on the sidewalk. The city hummed with distant traffic and nearby conversations. I parked a few blocks away, Ethan said, hands in his pockets. Can I walk you to your car? I took the bus, Lena admitted. Something shifted in his expression, concern, maybe, or surprise. This late? I live 3 stops away. It's fine. Let me drive you home. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. He held up a hand before she could protest. Not because I think you can't handle yourself. Because I'd like 5 more minutes of your company, and I'm selfish enough to use your bus schedule as an excuse. Lena felt that dangerous warmth spreading through her chest again. The feeling that whispered maybe and what if and other foolish things. 5 minutes, she agreed. But if you drive a sports car, I'm getting out at the first red light. Ethan laughed. Deal. His car was not a sports car. It was a sleek black SUV that probably cost as much as her annual salary, but it had car seats in the back and crushed goldfish crackers on the floor, which somehow made it less intimidating. The drive took 7 minutes, not 5. They spent it arguing about whether historical fiction counted as real reading. Lena said yes, Ethan said only if it was well researched. And somehow that debate felt more intimate than any deep conversation they could have had. When he pulled up outside her apartment building, a modest complex with peeling paint and a broken fountain, Lena half expected judgment to flicker across his face. It didn't. "Thank you for tonight," Ethan said, "for showing up, for being honest, for giving me a chance even though every instinct probably told you not to. Thank you for not running when I showed up looking like a homeless person." "You didn't look homeless, you looked real." He paused. "Can I see you again?" The question hung in the air between them, full of possibility and risk. Lena's first instinct was to say no, to protect herself, to end this before it could hurt. But Ethan had been kind, genuine. He'd talked about his daughter with such fierce love that Lena could feel how seriously he took the responsibility of bringing someone into their lives. He hadn't flinched at her debt or her broken trust or her defensive armor. And God, she was tired of being afraid. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'd like that." Ethan's smile could have lit the whole city. "Saturday, there's a used bookstore in the West End that's having a sale. I thought maybe Emma could come too, if that's not too weird for a second date." Meeting the daughter on the second date. That was either a green flag or a red one, and Lena wasn't sure which, but she heard herself saying, "That sounds perfect." They exchanged numbers, made plans, said goodnight with an awkwardness that felt sweet rather than uncomfortable. Lena watched him drive away, then climbed the stairs to her apartment on the third floor. Her cat, Detective Whiskers, greeted her with indignant meowing and demands for dinner. She fed him, changed into pajamas, brushed her teeth, and for the first time in 2 years, she went to bed without that familiar weight of dread sitting on her chest. Maybe, she thought as sleep pulled her under, maybe Claire had been right. Maybe it was time to try. Saturday arrived wrapped in spring sunshine and nervous energy. Lena changed outfits 4 times before settling on dark jeans and a green sweater that Claire had once said made her eyes look pretty. She wore her hair down, added minimal makeup, traded her usual sneakers for ankle boots that had survived 3 winters but still looked decent. She looked in the mirror and saw someone trying. Not too hard, just enough. The bookstore was exactly the kind of place Lena loved, cramped, cluttered, smelling of old paper and possibility. Towers of books created narrow pathways, handwritten signs advertised sales and recommendations. A ginger cat napped in the front window display. Ethan was already there, leaning against the fiction section with his daughter on his hip. Emma was small for 7, with dark curls like her father's and enormous brown eyes that studied Lena with unnerving intensity. She wore purple overalls and light-up sneakers that blinked with every movement. "Lena, this is Emma," Ethan said, and the pride in his voice made Lena's chest ache. "Emma, this is my friend Lena." "Hi," Lena said, offering a small wave. Emma tilted her head. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" "Emma," Ethan started, but Lena laughed. "Not yet. We're still deciding if we like each other." "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I think they're fascinating." "What's your favorite?" "Probably the Ankylosaurus. I like that they had armor." Emma's expression brightened considerably. "That's a good one. Most people say T-Rex because they don't know anything." "Emma," Ethan said again, but he was smiling. "Be nice." "I am being nice. I didn't say she was boring." Emma wiggled until Ethan set her down, then grabbed Lena's hand with shocking confidence. "Come on. The kids section has a sale. $2 for any hardcover." And just like that, Lena was being dragged through the stacks by a 7-year-old who kept up a running commentary on everything from the Jurassic period to why chapter books were better than picture books, because you can imagine things yourself instead of someone doing it for you. Ethan followed behind, carrying the growing stack of books Emma declared essential. They spent an hour there. Emma found 6 books she couldn't live without. Lena found a vintage copy of Anne of Green Gables with beautiful illustrations. Ethan found a first edition of something he wouldn't show them, but paid for with cash and a secretive smile. At the register, Emma insisted on using her allowance to buy Lena a bookmark. "You have to have a bookmark if you're going to read," she said seriously. "Using folded paper is bad for the spine." "You're absolutely right," Lena agreed, accepting the bookmark, a laminated piece featuring a watercolor dragon. with appropriate solemnity. Thank you, Emma. You're welcome. Now we have to get ice cream. We don't have to, Ethan started. Daddy, it's Saturday. We always get ice cream on Saturday. Emma looked at Lena. Do you like ice cream? I love ice cream. See? She fits. Emma grabbed both their hands. Let's go. They went. The ice cream shop was 2 blocks away, family-owned with a chalkboard menu and mismatched chairs. Emma ordered mint chocolate chip and a waffle cone. Lena got salted caramel. Ethan got plain vanilla, which Emma declared boring but respectable. They sat outside at a wobbly table, watching people walk by. Emma chattered about school, about her best friend who was moving away next month, about the science fair project she was planning. She asked Lena what it was like to be a teacher, whether she had pets, if she'd ever broken a bone. Ethan interjected occasionally with gentle corrections or clarifications, but mostly he just watched them interact with an expression Lena couldn't quite read. When Emma's ice cream started dripping, Lena automatically grabbed a napkin and helped clean her hands before the mess spread. Emma accepted the help without fuss, still talking about her science fair idea. It felt easy, natural, like something that had been happening for years instead of hours, and that terrified Lena more than anything, because this laughing little girl and her devoted father and the promise of Saturday traditions, this was the kind of thing that could break her if she let herself want it, and it disappeared. You okay? Ethan asked quietly while Emma ran to throw away their napkins. Yeah, just... Lena shook her head. She's wonderful. She likes you. Ethan's voice was soft. She doesn't usually warm up to people this fast. She's careful, like her dad. Careful is smart. So is taking chances. Emma returned, oblivious to the weight of the conversation she'd interrupted. Can Lena come to the park? There's swings. Emma, Lena might have other plans. I don't, Lena said. I'd love to go to the park. So they went to the park. Emma demonstrated her monkey bar skills and her ability to swing higher than any other kid there. Ethan pushed her on the swings while Lena sat on a nearby bench, watching this small family exist in their Saturday routine. At some point, Ethan joined her on the bench while Emma played in the sandbox with 2 other children. Thank you for today, he said, for being patient with her, for not minding that our second date turned into a family outing. I like family outings. Lena watched Emma carefully construct a sandcastle. She's special, Ethan. I know. That's why I'm careful about who I introduce her to. I can't... He paused. I can't bring someone into her life who's going to leave. She's already lost too much. I understand. Do you? He turned to look at her directly. Because I need you to know what you're signing up for if this continues. Emma isn't a complication. She's the priority. She's the reason I asked the matchmaker to keep my details vague, because I need people to see me as a father first before they see anything else. What else would they see? Lena asked, confused. Something flickered across Ethan's expression. Just other things. Work things. Things that don't matter as much as being a good dad. Before Lena could press further, Emma came running over, covered in sand and beaming. I made you both castles, she announced. They have moats and everything. They admired the castles. Emma insisted on taking pictures. Ethan's phone buzzed repeatedly, but he ignored it, focused entirely on his daughter and this moment. When the sun started to set, painting the park in gold and amber, Ethan drove them both home. At Lena's apartment building, Emma leaned forward from her car seat. Will you come to my birthday party? It's in 3 weeks. We're going to the Science Museum. Lena looked at Ethan, who was carefully not meeting her eyes. I'd love to, she said. If your dad says it's okay. It's more than okay, Ethan said quietly. Emma cheered. Lena got out of the car feeling lighter than she had in years. She waved goodbye and watched them drive away. This man and his daughter, this possibility that scared and excited her in equal measure. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Thank you for today. Emma hasn't stopped talking about you. Neither have I, to be honest. Same time next Saturday? Lena smiled and typed back. It's a date. Because... The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of grading papers, teaching fractions, and counting down to Saturdays. She and Ethan texted throughout the week. Nothing heavy, just small moments. Emma's latest dinosaur fact. A funny thing one of Lena's students said. Pictures of the cat. Links to articles about books they both wanted to read. Their third date was coffee and a walk through a botanical garden. Their fourth was dinner at a quiet Italian place where the owner seemed to know Ethan by name and gave them the best table without asking. Emma was there for some of it, absent for other parts. Lena learned that Ethan's brother, someone named Marcus, helped with childcare and apparently lectured Ethan constantly about being too careful with his heart. She learned that Ethan loved jazz music and terrible puns, that he taught himself to braid Emma's hair through YouTube videos, that he still wore his wedding ring on a chain around his neck because Emma had asked him to keep it safe. She learned he was kind without being soft, protective without being controlling, and genuinely interested in her life beyond what she could offer him. What she didn't learn was what exactly he did for a living. Business was his standard answer. He had meetings, calls that came at odd hours, a schedule that seemed flexible but busy. Sometimes he'd apologize for checking his phone, but he was never rude about it. Lena told herself it didn't matter. Plenty of people were private about work. Plenty of people kept professional and personal lives separate. But small things nagged at her. The way the restaurant owner had almost seemed nervous around him. The expensive car with the child seat. The watch that probably cost more than her student loans. The fact that he'd paid cash for everything, every time, without blinking. And then there was the moment at the botanical garden when a woman had stared at him, pulled out her phone like she was taking a picture, and Ethan had smoothly positioned himself so Lena blocked the camera angle. She'd asked about it. He'd deflected. Just someone being weird, he'd said. Happens sometimes. It was the first time he'd been less than fully honest with her, and it sat like a stone in her stomach. But then Emma's birthday arrived, and Lena pushed her concerns aside. The Science Museum was chaos in the best way. 27-year-olds hopped up on cake and curiosity, racing through exhibits on planets and dinosaurs and the human body. Emma was in her element, showing off her knowledge and introducing Lena to all her friends as my dad's girlfriend Lena. Lena didn't correct her. Ethan's family was there too. His brother Marcus, tall, polished, with the same gray eyes but a harder edge, and their mother, an elegant woman in her 60s who studied Lena with the kind of assessment that felt like an X-ray. So you're the teacher, Marcus said, shaking her hand with a grip just slightly too firm. That's me. Emma talks about you constantly. Lena said this. Lena thinks that. You've made quite an impression. She's an easy kid to impress. Smart, curious, fearless. Takes after her father. Marcus glanced at Ethan, who was helping Emma and her friends with a physics experiment, though he's been significantly less fearless since becoming a single parent. Marcus, their mother said sharply. What? I'm just saying Ethan's been cautious, understandably, but maybe too cautious. He looked back at Lena. It's good that he's finally letting someone in. The words were kind, but something underneath them made Lena uncomfortable, like she was being evaluated for a position she hadn't applied for. Ethan's mother, call me Catherine, dear, was more direct. How long have you known my son? About 3 weeks. And he brought you to Emma's birthday. Emma invited me, actually. Did she? Catherine's smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, Emma's judgment is usually sound. I trust we'll be seeing more of you. It wasn't quite a welcome. It wasn't quite a warning. It was something in between that made Lena feel exposed and uncertain. But then Emma grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the planetarium show, and the moment passed. Later, when parents started collecting their exhausted children and the museum began closing, Ethan walked Lena to her car, a beat-up sedan she'd bought used and prayed would last another year. Thank you for coming, he said. Emma had the best day. Thank you for inviting me. Lena leaned against her car door. Your family is interesting. Ethan winced. I'm sorry if Marcus was intense. He's protective. It's fine. I get it. You're protecting Emma. They're protecting you. Still, they can be a lot. He stepped closer, hands in his pockets. Can I see you this week? Without the chaos of 7-year-olds and nosy relatives? I'd like that. Thursday? There's this place. Nothing fancy, just good food and quiet. We can actually talk. Thursday works. He smiled, then hesitated. Lena, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have mentioned before now. Her heart sank. Here it was, the other shoe dropping right on his schedule. Okay, she said carefully. It's about my work, about who I am outside of being Emma's dad. I've been vague about it because... His phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. I'm sorry, He checked the screen and cursed softly. I have to take this. 2 minutes. He walked a few feet away, his voice low and urgent. Lena couldn't hear the words, but she could hear the tone. Authority. Command. The voice of someone used to making decisions that mattered. When he returned, his expression was tight. I'm sorry, work emergency. I have to... It's fine, go. Handle it. Thursday, he said firmly. We'll talk then. I promise. He kissed her cheek, quick, warm, full of promise, then jogged back to where Marcus was waiting with Emma. Lena got in her car and sat in the parking lot for a long moment, watching them leave in Ethan's expensive SUV. Something I should have mentioned before now. The words echoed in her head all the way home. Thursday came with rain and second thoughts. Lena stood in front of her closet, phone in hand, reading Ethan's text for the third time that hour. Looking forward to tonight. I know I've been mysterious about some things. That changes today. See you at 7? She should have felt reassured. Instead, she felt the familiar clench of anxiety that had become her constant companion since Jason. The certainty that something was about to go wrong because good things always did. Claire's voice echoed in her head from their lunch conversation yesterday. Maybe he's in witness protection. Maybe he's a secret agent. Maybe he just has a weird job he's embarrassed about. Stop catastrophizing. But catastrophizing had kept Lena safe for 2 years. Catastrophizing meant never being surprised when people disappointed you. She chose a navy dress that hit just above the knee. Nice enough for dinner, comfortable enough that she wouldn't spend the evening tugging at seams. Minimal jewelry. Hair down. Enough effort to show she cared. Not so much that she'd feel foolish if this all fell apart. The restaurant Ethan had chosen was in a quiet neighborhood she'd never visited, the kind of place with valet parking and a doorman who opened the door with white-gloved hands. Lena's beat-up sedan looked distinctly out of place among the luxury cars lining the street. Inside was worse. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, servers in formal attire moving like synchronized dancers, the kind of establishment where the prices weren't listed on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Lena's stomach dropped. This wasn't just nice. This was something else entirely. Can I help you, miss? The hostess looked at her with polite confusion, clearly wondering if she'd wandered in by mistake. I'm meeting someone. Ethan Vale? The hostess's expression transformed instantly. Of course, Mr. Vale is already here. Right this way, please. She led Lena through the dining room, past tables of well-dressed couples speaking in hushed tones, past a wine cellar visible through glass walls, past servers who seemed to recognize the hostess's destination and stepped aside smoothly. They ended up in a private corner booth, partially secluded by a decorative screen that provided the illusion of intimacy while still allowing glimpses of the main dining room. Ethan stood when he saw her, and Lena's breath caught despite her anxiety. He wore a dark suit, navy, perfectly tailored, with a white shirt and no tie. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd showered recently. He looked polished and professional, and completely at ease in this environment that made Lena feel like an imposter. You look beautiful, he said, and sounded like he meant it. You look expensive, Lena replied, then winced. Sorry, that came out wrong. No, that was accurate. Ethan smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Sit, please. I ordered wine. I hope that's okay. If you don't drink, I can. Wine is fine. Lena slid into the booth, hyper-aware of the soft leather, the gleaming silverware, the weight of whatever conversation was about to happen. Ethan sat across from her, fingers drumming once against the table before he stilled them deliberately. I'm nervous, he admitted. That makes 2 of us. I don't want you to be nervous. I just want to be honest with you. I should have been honest from the beginning, but He paused. I wanted you to know me as just Ethan first, not as everything else. Everything else? Lena repeated carefully. A server appeared with wine, something red that probably cost more than her weekly groceries, and filled their glasses with practiced efficiency before disappearing again. Ethan took a sip, set down his glass, met her eyes. I wasn't completely truthful when I said I work in business. I mean, I do, but that's reductive. He took a breath. My family owns Vail Industries. My grandfather started it, my father expanded it, and when my wife died, I inherited controlling interest. We have holdings in technology, real estate, manufacturing, 15,000 employees across 4 continents, annual revenue in the billions. Lena's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. Billions. You're a billionaire, she said flatly. Technically, yes, but I don't think of it that way. I think of myself as someone running a company and raising a daughter. The money is just there. The money is just there, Lena echoed, hearing the slight hysteria creeping into her voice. Ethan, you've been driving me around in an SUV that costs more than I make in 2 years. You paid cash for a first edition book like it was a magazine. You brought me to a restaurant where I'm afraid to look at the prices, which is exactly why I didn't tell you immediately. He leaned forward. Because of this. This moment where everything changes and you start seeing the money instead of seeing me. That's not fair, isn't it? You're looking at me differently right now. I can see it. And damn him, he was right. Lena was looking at him differently. Not with greed or calculation, but with the sudden vertigo of realizing she'd been playing a completely different game than she'd thought. All those vague answers about work. The expensive car justified by safety for Emma. The way restaurant owners treated him. The woman at the botanical garden trying to take his picture. It all made horrible, clarifying sense. Why me? The question came out smaller than she'd intended. You could date anyone. Someone from your world who understands all this. Someone who wouldn't show up to a first date looking homeless or drive a car held together with duct tape and prayer. Because everyone from my world wants the money first and me second. Because I've been on enough dates with women who researched my net worth before they learned my daughter's name. Because you showed up dressed like you didn't want me to like you, and I found that so refreshing I could barely breathe. His voice was intense now, urgent. Lena, do you know how rare it is for someone to just talk to me? To argue about historical fiction and not care that I could buy the publishing house? To help Emma without calculating what you might get out of it? So I'm some kind of authenticity trophy. No. Ethan's jaw tightened. You're someone who makes me laugh, someone who understands what it means to protect yourself after being hurt, someone who looks at Emma like she's wonderful instead of like she's an obstacle to access, someone I'm falling for so fast it terrifies me. The words hung between them, too big and too true. Lena's hands were shaking. She set down her wine glass before she could spill it. I need a minute, she said. Of course. The restroom is... I know where restrooms are, Ethan. She stood, grabbed her purse, and walked as steadily as she could toward the back of the restaurant. In the bathroom, which was, predictably, nicer than her entire apartment, Lena braced her hands on the marble counter and stared at her reflection. A billionaire. Ethan Vail was a billionaire, and he'd just said he was falling for her. Her phone buzzed. Claire, because of course Claire had timing. How's dinner? Is he a serial killer? Do I need to call you with a fake emergency? Lena typed back with shaking fingers. He's a billionaire. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, what literal billionaire? Like Forbes list billionaire. And he just told me he's falling for me. Do not panic too late. Lena Marie Parker, you listen to me. Take 3 deep breaths. Then go back out there and talk to the man like a human being. Rich people are just people with more money. He's still the same guy who braids his daughter's hair and likes terrible puns. But what if... No what ifs. You like him. He likes you. The rest is just details. Lena stared at the message, wanting desperately to believe it. But she'd spent 2 years learning that the details were where everything went wrong. The details were where men hid their true intentions and debts appeared out of nowhere, and trust became a weapon. Still, Ethan wasn't Jason. He'd been honest, eventually. He'd introduced her to his daughter, his family. He'd shown her real pieces of himself. And she'd seen the way he looked at her, like she mattered, like she was valuable beyond any calculation. Lena took 3 deep breaths like Claire suggested. Then she went back to the table. Ethan stood again when she approached, his expression guarded and hopeful in equal measure. "I'm sorry," he started, but Lena held up a hand. "Let me talk first." She sat down, waited for him to do the same. "I'm not mad that you're rich. I'm mad that you waited 3 weeks to tell me. I'm mad that I've been making jokes about my car while you were probably having an aneurysm every time I drove us somewhere. I'm mad that your family was evaluating me at Emma's birthday party, and I didn't even know what I was being evaluated for." "That's fair," Ethan said quietly. "I'm also scared," Lena continued, "because you and Emma are starting to matter to me, and the last time someone mattered to me, he destroyed my life. And now I find out that you exist in a completely different universe than I do, and I don't know how to navigate that without getting hurt. I would never hurt you the way he did." "You can't promise that. No one can." "You're right." Ethan reached across the table, palm up, an invitation rather than a demand. "But I can promise that I see you, the real you, not someone I'm trying to save or fix or mold into something convenient. I can promise that what I feel for you has nothing to do with your bank account or your job or any external thing. I can promise that if you give me a chance, a real chance, I will spend every day proving that you can trust me." Lena looked at his hand, at the calluses she'd noticed before, the ones that didn't make sense for someone who worked in an office, at the wedding ring tan line that had faded but never quite disappeared. "I need you to understand something," she said. "I have $47,000 in debt from my ex-fiance's fraud. I work 2 jobs, teaching during the week and tutoring on weekends. I live in a 600-square-foot apartment with a cat and furniture from Goodwill. I can't afford fancy dinners or private schools for Emma or any of the things your world probably considers normal. I don't care about any of that. But I do. I care that there's this massive power imbalance between us. I care that you could solve my biggest problem with what's probably pocket change to you, and I would hate myself if I let you. I care that your family is going to think I'm after your money no matter what I do." "Then we handle it together." Ethan's voice was steady. "We set boundaries. We keep things separate until you're comfortable. We prove to my family and to you that this is real. Whatever you need, Lena. I'm not going anywhere." "Why?" The question came out almost as a whisper. "Why does this matter so much to you?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his hand still extended across the table. "Because my wife died in a car accident 3 weeks after Emma was born," he said finally. "One minute I was a new father celebrating this tiny human we'd created. The next, I was a widower trying to figure out how to keep a baby alive while everything inside me was screaming. And everyone around me said the right things and offered the right help, but they all looked at me like I was broken glass. Like if they breathed wrong, I'd shatter." His voice cracked slightly, and Lena's chest ached. "You don't look at me like that," he continued. "You look at me like I'm a person who survived something hard and came out functional on the other side. Like my grief doesn't define me. Like I'm allowed to be happy again without it being a betrayal." He paused. "You look at Emma like she's a gift, not a burden. And you look at yourself like you need to prove you're worth caring about, which kills me because you are. You're worth everything." Lena felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. She blinked them back, but one escaped anyway, trailing hot down her cheek. She reached out and took his hand. His fingers closed around hers immediately, warm and solid and real. "Okay," she said. "Okay. We try, but slowly and honestly. And if this gets weird or wrong or too complicated, we promise to actually talk about it instead of pretending everything's fine." "Deal." Ethan's smile was brilliant, transformative. "Can we order food now? I'm starving, and I've been too nervous to eat all day." Lena laughed, the sound wet and surprised. "Yes, please. But you're ordering for me because I genuinely cannot understand this menu. It's mostly French. Very pretentious. I only picked this place because it's private, and the owner's daughter went to school with Emma. I'm happy to go somewhere else." "No, this is..." Lena looked around at the crystal and the candlelight and the quiet elegance. "This is actually kind of nice. Terrifying, but nice." They ordered. Ethan translated the menu, made recommendations, and somehow made the whole experience feel less like an exam and more like an adventure. The food, when it arrived, was extraordinary, delicate and rich and perfectly prepared. They talked through dinner about safer topics. Emma's upcoming school play, Lena's class field trip to the zoo, the terrible movie Ethan had watched on a plane last month. The conversation flowed easily again, the tension from earlier dissolving into something comfortable. But as the server cleared their plates and offered dessert menus, Lena couldn't stop thinking about what came next. What happens now? She asked. I mean, practically, do I need to sign something, a non-disclosure agreement or whatever rich people do? Ethan looked startled. What? No. God, no, this isn't a business arrangement, Lena. But people know who you are. That woman at the botanical garden was taking pictures. What happens when someone publishes a photo of us together? His expression darkened. I have a PR team that handles that kind of thing. They'll reach out, make sure you're comfortable with whatever gets published. But I can't promise it won't happen. My life is visible sometimes. I try to keep Emma out of it, but I can't control everything. So I should expect strangers to start Googling me. Probably. He looked miserable admitting it. I'm sorry. I wish I could protect you from that part. It's not your fault. Lena took a sip of water, processing. I just need to be prepared. Make sure my social media is locked down. Warn Claire that people might ask her questions. I can have my team help with that if you want. They're good at... No. The word came out sharper than she'd intended. Sorry, but no. I need to handle my own life, Ethan. I can't start depending on your people or your resources or I'll lose myself completely. I understand, but if you change your mind, I won't. They looked at each other across the table, and Lena saw the moment Ethan realized this was going to be harder than he'd thought. That dating someone who'd been financially devastated by a partner meant navigating a minefield of pride and fear, and boundaries he didn't fully understand yet. I'm going to make mistakes with this, he said quietly. I'm going to offer help when you don't want it, or say the wrong thing, or accidentally make you feel small. Tell me when I do, please. I can't fix what I don't know is broken. Okay? Lena appreciated the honesty more than he probably realized. And I'm going to be defensive and stubborn and probably push you away sometimes because that's how I protect myself. Don't let me. Or at least don't let me do it without calling me on it. Deal. The server returned with dessert menus. They ordered something chocolate to share because Emma had told Lena that sharing dessert was what people do when they really like each other. 7-year-old wisdom was surprisingly reliable. As they waited for dessert, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then set it face down on the table. Everything okay? Lena asked. Just Marcus. He wants to talk tomorrow. About me? Probably. Ethan's jaw tightened. He's protective, suspicious of everyone. He'll want to make sure you're not going to hurt me or Emma. And what will you tell him? That my personal life is none of his business. But Ethan didn't sound entirely convinced. The dessert arrived, some kind of molten chocolate creation with raspberry sauce and gold leaf garnish that was almost too beautiful to eat. They ate it anyway, and it was worth the aesthetic sacrifice. When the check came, discreetly, in a leather folder, Lena didn't look at it. She was learning to pick her battles. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glossy and reflecting the city lights. Ethan had insisted on valet parking for her car, which meant a teenager in a vest delivered her beat-up sedan alongside vehicles that cost 10 times as much. The valet didn't even blink. Thank you for tonight, Lena said as they stood between their cars, for being honest, for understanding why this is hard for me. Thank you for not running when I told you. Ethan stepped closer, his hands finding her waist with a gentleness that made her breath catch. Can I kiss you? We've been on 4 dates, and you haven't tried yet. I was starting to think you weren't interested. I've been terrified. Didn't want to pressure you or move too fast or... Lena kissed him. It was soft and careful and perfect. He tasted like chocolate and wine and possibility. His hands tightened on her waist, pulling her closer but not demanding more than she offered. When they broke apart, both slightly breathless, Ethan was smiling. I've wanted to do that since the coffee shop, he admitted. You should have. I'll remember that for next time. There's going to be a next time? If you'll have me, Lena looked at him. This complicated, wealthy, gentle man who braided his daughter's hair and wore his grief quietly and somehow still believed in second chances. Yeah, she said softly. I'll have you. She drove home feeling lighter than she had in years, even as her logical brain cataloged all the ways this could go wrong. But when she checked her phone before bed, there was a text from Ethan. Emma wants to know if you'll come to her school play next Friday. I told her I'd ask, no pressure, and below that, a photo of Emma in what appeared to be a homemade costume, grinning at the camera with missing front teeth on full display. Lena typed back, I'll be there. Then she added, thank you for tonight, for all of it. His response came immediately. Thank you for taking a chance on us. Lena fell asleep smiling, her cat curled against her side, and for once she didn't dream about debt or betrayal or all the ways trust could turn to ash. She dreamed about Saturdays in bookstores and a little girl who believed sharing dessert meant something real. The next week passed in a strange duality of normalcy and surrealness. Lena taught her third graders about multiplication and state capitals. She tutored after school. She paid her bills and avoided looking at her shrinking bank balance. But she also texted Ethan throughout the day, received photos of Emma's play rehearsals, learned that Ethan took his coffee black because his wife had made fun of him for ordering dessert in a cup, and he'd never been able to go back to sugar and cream after she died. She learned small, intimate details that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with the person he was. On Wednesday, 3 days before Emma's play, Lena was leaving school when a black town car pulled up to the curb. Marcus Vale stepped out. He was more polished than his brother. Sharper suit, harder edges, the kind of precision that came from being the person who handled problems. He looked at Lena's worn messenger bag and sensible flats with an expression she couldn't quite read. Miss Parker, do you have a moment? I have tutoring in 30 minutes. This won't take long. It wasn't quite a request. Lena's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral. Okay. Marcus gestured to a bench near the school entrance, away from the stream of students and parents. They sat, and for a moment, he just studied her with those same gray eyes that looked so different without Ethan's warmth behind them. My brother is falling in love with you, Marcus said finally. I thought you should know that. He told me. And what do you feel for him? Lena bristled. With respect, that's between Ethan and me. Normally I'd agree, but Ethan has Emma to think about. And my brother's judgment when it comes to matters of the heart has been compromised by grief and loneliness. So I'm asking you directly, what are your intentions? My intentions? Lena's voice went cold. You're asking me like I'm some kind of threat. Are you? I'm a third grade teacher who's barely keeping her head above water financially. I have student loans and debt and a car that might die tomorrow. I met your brother on a blind date and had no idea who he was. What exactly do you think I'm threatening? His peace, Emma's stability, the family's money? Lena stood up. You can say it. You think I'm after his money. You probably ran a background check already and found the debt from my ex-fiancé and decided I'm some kind of gold digger looking for a rescue. Marcus's silence was confirmation enough. For your information, Lena continued, her voice shaking now with anger and hurt, I have never asked Ethan for a single thing. I didn't even know he was wealthy until last week, and I'm not interested in his money. I'm interested in him. In the man who shows up for his daughter every single day, who talks about his late wife with respect instead of treating her like ancient history, who makes terrible jokes and actually listens when I talk and doesn't treat me like I'm damaged goods because I've been through something hard. People say those things all the time. Then they show their true colors. Then wait for my true colors. But don't interrogate me like a criminal when I've done nothing wrong except care about your brother. Marcus stood as well, adjusting his cufflinks with deliberate calm. I apologize if I've offended you, but Emma is 7 years old and has already lost her mother. If you and Ethan don't work out, she'll lose you too. That's not theoretical damage, that's real pain for a real child. So forgive me for wanting to make sure you're serious before you get any more entrenched in their lives. The words hit harder because they were valid, because Lena had been thinking the same thing every time Emma hugged her or called her daddy's girlfriend with such casual confidence. I am serious, Lena said quietly. Maybe too serious, too fast. But I'm not playing games. I'm not using them. And if you can't see that, then I don't know what else to tell you. Marcus studied her for another long moment. Then he pulled a business card from his jacket pocket and held it out. My personal number. If you ever need anything, legal advice about that debt situation, security concerns, anything at all, you call me. Ethan's too emotionally involved to be objective, but I'm not. And despite what you might think, I don't want to see you hurt either. Lena took the card, more surprised than anything else. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm still going to be watching. But his expression had softened fractionally. My brother deserves happiness. So does Emma. I just need to make sure you're not going to take that away from them. I'm not. Then we don't have a problem. Marcus nodded once, precise and formal. I'll see you at the play on Friday. And Miss Parker? Don't mention this conversation to Ethan. He'll be furious with me, and I'd rather not deal with that right now. He left before Lena could respond, sliding back into his town car and disappearing into traffic. Lena stood there for a long moment, Marcus's card clutched in her hand, her heart hammering against her ribs. She should tell Ethan. She should definitely tell Ethan. But part of her understood why Marcus had done it. The protective instinct, the fear of watching someone you love get hurt again, the responsibility of safeguarding a child who couldn't protect herself. She tucked the card into her wallet and went to tutoring, but her mind was elsewhere for the entire session. That night, Ethan called instead of texting. Hey, he said, and she could hear Emma singing something off-key in the background. Bad time? No, it's good. What's up? Nothing specific, just wanted to hear your voice. He paused. That's not weird, is it? That feels weird. Tell me if that's weird. Lena smiled despite the lingering tension from Marcus's visit. It's not weird. It's actually really nice. Good, because I'm currently helping Emma memorize lines for the play, and she keeps adding her own dialogue. Apparently, the original script doesn't have enough dinosaur facts. She's not wrong. Most things could benefit from more dinosaur facts. That's what she said. I'm raising a tiny paleontologist. His voice was warm with affection. She's very excited that you're coming on Friday. She made me promise to save you the best seat. All seats are good seats when you're watching a school play. Tell that to Emma. She has opinions about sightlines. They talked for 20 minutes about nothing important. Emma's latest obsession with a YouTube channel about space, Lena's student who'd finally mastered long division after weeks of struggle, whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Ethan said no, Lena said yes, they agreed to disagree. It was easy, comfortable, the kind of conversation that felt like home. And Lena didn't mention Marcus's visit because she was still processing it herself, and because some part of her wanted to prove, to Marcus, to herself, that she could handle the complications of Ethan's world without falling apart. Friday arrived with the organized chaos that accompanied any elementary school production. Lena showed up 30 minutes early, as instructed by Emma, via a series of increasingly urgent texts on Ethan's phone. The cafeteria had been transformed into a makeshift theater, complete with a stage constructed from risers and curtains that looked like they'd been assembled by determined volunteers rather than professionals. Ethan was already there, standing near the back row with his phone to his ear, looking stressed. When he saw Lena, his expression brightened immediately. He ended the call and crossed to her in 3 long strides. Thank God you're here, he said, pulling her into a brief hug that felt natural and right. Emma's been asking for you every 5 minutes. Where is she? Backstage, terrorizing the drama teacher with dinosaur facts. Apparently the play is about the Oregon Trail, and Emma decided her character would have taken a paleontology textbook. Historically accurate. Historically Emma. He took her hand, threading their fingers together. Come on. I saved you a seat. Front row, center. Emma was very specific. They navigated through the growing crowd of parents and siblings toward the reserved seats in the front. Lena recognized a few faces from Emma's birthday party, school friends and their families, but mostly it was strangers. Until Catherine Vale appeared, elegant and composed, with Marcus trailing behind her. Ethan, Catherine said warmly, kissing her son's cheek. Lena, how lovely to see you again. Her smile seemed genuine, but Lena couldn't help remembering the assessment in her eyes at the birthday party. the way she'd studied Lena like a problem to be solved. "Mrs. Vale," Lena said politely. "Catherine, please." She settled into the seat beside Ethan, leaving Lena between the brothers. "I'm so glad you could make it. Emma has been talking about you constantly." "She's a special kid." "She is." Catherine's gaze was sharp but not unkind. "Ethan tells me you're a teacher as well. 3rd grade?" "Yes, ma'am." "How wonderful. Emma could use more educators in her life. Strong female role models." It sounded like a compliment. It felt like a test. Marcus leaned over slightly, his voice low enough that only Lena could hear. "Breathe. She likes you. If she didn't, we wouldn't be having small talk." Lena glanced at him, surprised. He gave her the smallest nod. Not quite an apology, but close. The lights dimmed, the audience quieted, and the play began with all the enthusiastic imperfection that made elementary school productions simultaneously wonderful and excruciating. Emma appeared in the 3rd scene as a pioneer child, her costume a mix of prairie dress and light-up sneakers she'd apparently refused to remove. Her lines were delivered with the confidence of someone who'd memorized them perfectly and the creativity of someone who'd decided to improve them on the fly. When she spotted Lena in the front row, her entire face lit up. She waved, forgot her next line, recovered by inserting a dinosaur fact, and somehow made it work. Ethan's hand found Lena's in the darkness. His grip was tight, almost desperate, and when Lena looked at him, she saw tears on his cheeks. "She's never had this," he whispered. "Someone besides family to perform for. Someone who showed up just for her." Lena's throat went tight. She squeezed his hand back, unable to speak past the emotion clogging her chest. The play ended with enthusiastic applause and a standing ovation that was probably more generous than the performance warranted, but absolutely appropriate for the effort involved. Emma bounded off the stage and straight to Lena, crashing into her with the force of a small, excited cannonball. "Did you see? Did you see my part?" "You were brilliant," Lena said honestly. "Best pioneer with dinosaur knowledge I've ever seen." "I added that part myself. Mrs. Henderson said it was creative liberty." "It absolutely was." Ethan scooped Emma up, spinning her once before settling her on his hip. "I'm so proud of you, Bug." "Can Lena come to dinner? Please? We're going to get pizza, and you promised I could get whatever toppings I wanted." Ethan looked at Lena, question in his eyes. Catherine interjected smoothly. "Actually, I was hoping we could all go to dinner. Celebrate properly. Unless you have other plans, Lena?" It was a test. Definitely a test. Lena looked at Emma's hopeful expression, at Ethan's cautious encouragement, at Marcus's carefully neutral face. "I'd love to," she said, and hoped she wasn't making a terrible mistake. The restaurant Catherine chose wasn't the pizza place Emma had been promised. It was an upscale Italian establishment with valet parking and a maitre d' who greeted Catherine by name and led them to a private dining room with windows overlooking the city. Emma's face fell when she realized they weren't going to her favorite pizza place with the arcade games and the robot that delivered sodas. "Grandma, you said pizza," Emma said, her voice small and confused. "They have the best pizza in the city, darling," Catherine replied smoothly. "Much better than that noisy place with all the games." "But I wanted—" "Emma," Catherine's tone was gentle but firm. "We're celebrating. This is a special occasion." Lena watched Emma's shoulders slump in defeat, watched Ethan's jaw tighten as he clearly debated whether to override his mother in front of everyone. The power dynamic was obvious and uncomfortable. Catherine making decisions, Ethan caught between his mother and his daughter, Emma learning to swallow disappointment. "Actually," Lena said quietly, "I've never been to the place with the robot. That sounds pretty cool." Emma's head snapped up, hope flickering back to life in her eyes. Catherine's smile didn't waver, but her gaze sharpened. "I'm sure it's charming, but I've already made reservations here. It would be rude to cancel." "Of course," Lena said, keeping her tone respectful. "Another time, then." But Ethan had seen the exchange, seen Emma's disappointment, and Lena's gentle advocacy and his mother's subtle power play. His expression shifted into something Lena hadn't seen before, the face of someone used to running a billion-dollar company, someone who made decisions and expected them to be followed. "Mom, I appreciate you making plans," he said evenly, "but I promised Emma pizza at her favorite place. We'll do this another night. Catherine's smile tightened fractionally. Ethan, I went through considerable trouble, and I'm grateful, but Emma comes first, always. He looked at his daughter, his expression softening. Bug, go get back in the car. We're going to get the robot pizza like I promised. Emma's face transformed with joy. She hugged Ethan fiercely, then grabbed Lena's hand. Come on! You're gonna love it! They have Miss Pac-Man and everything. Emma, wait in the car, please, Ethan said. I need to talk to Grandma for a minute. Emma hesitated, clearly sensing the tension, but Marcus stepped forward. I'll take her. Come on, Munchkin. Show me if you still remember how to beat me at air hockey. You're going down, Uncle Marcus. Big talk from someone who's 2 feet tall. They left, Emma chattering excitedly about her arcade strategies, and suddenly Lena was alone with Ethan and Catherine in the restaurant's elegant foyer. The silence was thick enough to cut. I know what you're doing, Ethan said quietly to his mother, and it stops now. I'm trying to give you a proper celebration, Catherine replied, her composure perfect. Something befitting your family's position. Emma is 7 years old. She doesn't care about our position. She cares about pizza and arcade games and spending time with people she loves. Which is exactly why she needs guidance about appropriate expectations. You can't always give her everything she wants, Ethan. That's not preparing her for real life. She lost her mother when she was 2 years old. She's had more real life than most adults. Let her be a kid. He paused, then added more softly, and stop testing Lena. She's not on trial here. Catherine's gaze shifted to Lena, who had been trying to become invisible during this family confrontation. I'm not testing anyone. I'm simply trying to understand who my son is bringing into Emma's life. That's a grandmother's prerogative. It's an interrogation, Ethan corrected, and it ends now. Lena is important to me. She's important to Emma. If you want to be part of our lives, you treat her with respect. Not skepticism, not subtle judgment, respect. Lena's chest felt tight. No one had ever defended her like this. Not when Jason's family had suggested she was overreacting about the debt. Not when her own mother had implied she should have seen the warning signs. No one had ever chosen her so publicly, so completely. Catherine was quiet for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to Lena directly. I apologize if I've made you uncomfortable, my dear. Ethan is right. I've been unfair. She paused, and something in her face shifted, became more human. My son was shattered when Rebecca died, absolutely devastated. For 2 years, he was a ghost going through the motions for Emma's sake. This is the first time I've seen him truly happy again, and I'm terrified of watching him get hurt. I understand, Lena said, because she did. I'm terrified too. Are you? Catherine studied her with those sharp eyes. Because it seems to me you showed up to a first date dressed to scare him away, and he liked you anyway. That suggests you might be exactly the kind of stubborn the Vale family needs. It was almost a compliment, almost an acceptance. Ethan's hand found Lena's back, a gentle pressure of support. Can we please just go get pizza now, before Emma convinces Marcus to let her play games without supervision? Catherine sighed, the sound both resigned and fond. Go. Feed my granddaughter robot pizza and let her win at arcade games. But Lena, you and I will have lunch next week, just the two of us. I'd like to get to know you properly. It was phrased like an invitation. It felt like a command. I'd like that, Lena said, because refusing seemed worse than accepting. Catherine kissed Ethan's cheek, nodded at Lena with something approaching warmth, and left in a town car that had been waiting at the curb. Ethan exhaled slowly, his shoulders dropping as tension released. I'm sorry about that. She means well, but she's protective. I get it. Lena looked up at him. Thank you for choosing Emma. For choosing me. Always. He pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. Come on, let's go watch my daughter destroy Marcus at air hockey. The pizza place was everything Emma had promised. Loud, chaotic, filled with children's laughter and arcade game sounds, and the mechanical whir of a robot delivering sodas on a track system. The pizza was decent, but not spectacular. The games were outdated, but functional. It was perfect. Emma dragged Lena from game to game, explaining strategies and sharing tokens with generous enthusiasm. Marcus turned out to be surprisingly competitive at air hockey, and surprisingly gracious when Emma beat him 3 games in a row. Ethan attempted skee-ball with the kind of terrible hand-eye coordination that made Lena laugh until her sides hurt. They ate pizza at a sticky table surrounded by other families having similarly chaotic celebrations. Emma sat between Lena and Ethan, her light-up sneakers kicking against the booth, tomato sauce on her face, talking a mile a minute about school and friends, and whether Lena thought dinosaurs could have survived if the asteroid had missed Earth. It felt normal. Beautifully, perfectly normal. Marcus excused himself to take a call, stepping outside with his phone and his perpetual air of someone handling business even during family time. "I need the bathroom," Emma announced suddenly, sliding out of the booth. "I'll take you," Ethan started, but Emma shook her head. "I'm 7, Dad. I can go by myself." "The bathroom is right there. I can see it from here. I'm not a baby." She looked at Lena. "Will you save my tokens?" "Absolutely." Emma trotted off toward the bathroom with the confidence of a child who'd been here dozens of times. Ethan watched her go with the expression of a parent learning to let go in small increments. "She's growing up too fast," he said quietly. "That's what they do." "I know. I just wish I could slow it down sometimes. Keep her little and safe forever." Lena reached across the table and took his hand. "You're doing an amazing job with her. You know that, right? She's confident and kind and curious. That doesn't happen by accident. I'm terrified every single day that I'm screwing it up, that she needs a mother and I can't be that for her no matter how hard I try. She doesn't need you to be her mother. She needs you to be her dad. And you are, completely." Ethan's eyes were suspiciously bright. He squeezed her hand, opened his mouth to say something. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's my assistant. I told her not to call unless—" He answered. "What's wrong?" Lena couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Ethan's expression shift from concern to angry to something harder to define. "When?" he asked. Then, "How bad is it?" A pause. "No, don't release a statement yet. I'll handle it personally." Another pause. "I don't care what the PR team recommends. This is my life, not a corporate crisis. I'll call you back." He ended the call and sat very still for a moment, staring at his phone like it had personally betrayed him. "Ethan?" Lena's stomach clenched with familiar anxiety. "What happened?" "There's a gossip site. They published photos of us from last week at the restaurant, and they—" He looked at her, and she saw genuine fear in his eyes. "They did a profile on you. Your name, where you work, your social media. Everything." The world tilted sideways. "They published where I work?" Lena's voice sounded distant to her own ears. "My school?" "I'm so sorry. My security team should have caught this before it went live. They're trying to get it taken down, but it's already out there." Lena pulled her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself. "Everyone knows. My students' parents, my colleagues. Everyone. We'll fix this. I'll make a statement. Have my lawyers—" "Your lawyers can't unpublish something, Ethan." She felt panic rising in her chest, the familiar sensation of control slipping away. "What did they say about me?" He hesitated, which was answer enough. "Tell me." "They called you a gold digger, said you came out of nowhere with a convenient history of financial trouble. They implied you targeted me deliberately." His voice was tight with anger. "It's all garbage. Complete speculation presented as fact, but people will believe it anyway." Lena's hands were shaking. "People always believe the worst. My principal is going to see this. The parents of my students. They're going to think I'm some kind of con artist teaching their children. No one who knows you will believe that. You don't understand. I work with 8-year-olds whose parents are already suspicious of anyone in their kids' lives. One whiff of scandal, and I could lose everything." She stood up abruptly, needing space, needing air. "I need to go." "Lena, wait. I just need a minute. I need to think." She walked outside into the parking lot, gulping air that tasted like car exhaust and fried food. Her phone was already buzzing in her purse. Text from Claire. "What the hell is happening? Are you dating a billionaire? Why didn't you tell me it was that serious?" 3 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. An email from her principal with the subject line, "We need to talk." This was a nightmare. This was exactly the kind of exposure and judgment and loss of control that she'd spent 2 years trying to avoid. The door opened behind her. Marcus, not Ethan. He's with Emma, Marcus said without preamble. She came back from the bathroom asking why Daddy looked sad. I'm sure Ethan can handle it. He can. But you look like you're about to run, so I thought I'd come out here and tell you that would be a mistake. Lena turned to face him. How is this a mistake? My life just got published on the internet. My job is probably at risk. My privacy is gone, all because I went on a date with your brother. Welcome to the Vale family, Marcus said dryly. It's invasive and unfair and sometimes deeply unpleasant, but running won't fix it. Running will just confirm everything they're saying about you. I don't care what they're saying. Yes, you do. Everyone cares. He leaned against the brick wall of the restaurant. Look, I investigated you. I'm not going to apologize for that. It's my job to protect my family. But I found the court documents about your ex-fiancé. The police reports, the years of payments you've been making on debt that wasn't yours. Everything that proves you're exactly who you say you are. Lena's breath caught. You investigated me? Of course I did. You're dating my brother and becoming important to my niece. I wasn't going to leave that to chance. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, then held it out to her. This is a statement my team prepared. It includes enough documentation to prove the gossip site's claims are false. We can release it in the next hour if you approve. Lena stared at the phone screen, at the professional statement filled with legal language and strategic phrasing. You want to release my financial history to defend me? I want to release the truth to protect you. There's a difference. No. She pushed the phone back toward him. I don't want my entire past aired out for public consumption. That's not protecting me. That's using me to protect Ethan's reputation. It's both. And right now you need both. What I need is for everyone to leave me alone. Lena's voice cracked. What I need is to not have strangers dissecting my life because I fell for someone who comes with a media circus attached. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said more gently than she'd expected, My brother is inside that restaurant trying to explain to his 7-year-old daughter why the woman he loves is upset. Emma is asking if you're leaving because she did something wrong. That's what your running looks like to them. Not self-protection. Abandonment. The words hit like a physical blow. That's not fair, Lena whispered. No, but it's true. Marcus straightened, pocketing his phone. You're scared. I get it. This is overwhelming and invasive and not what you signed up for. But Ethan didn't sign up for being a widower at 32, and Emma didn't sign up for losing her mother. We all get dealt hands we didn't ask for. The question is whether you're going to fold or play through. You're mixing metaphors. I'm trying to prevent my brother from getting his heart broken again. Work with me here. Lena closed her eyes, feeling tears threatening. I don't know how to do this. How to be with someone whose life is public. How to handle strangers judging me. One day at a time. With support. With people who have your back. He paused. And for what it's worth, I do have your back now. I didn't at first. I thought you were another opportunist. But I was wrong. You love him for the right reasons, and you love Emma like she's already yours. That's rare enough that I'm willing to fight for it. The question is whether you are. Before Lena could respond, the door opened again. Ethan stood there with Emma in his arms, her face pressed against his shoulder. She won't stop crying, he said helplessly. She thinks you're mad at her. Lena's heart shattered. She crossed to them immediately, reaching up to gently touch Emma's back. Hey, Bug. I'm not mad at you. Emma lifted her head, her face blotchy and wet. Then why are you leaving? I'm not leaving. I just needed some air. That's what people say before they leave. Emma's voice was small and broken and full of experiences no 7-year-old should have. That's what Mommy said. She needed air, and then she never came back. Ethan's face crumpled. Emma, sweetie, that's not... Mommy didn't mean... But Lena understood. Emma had been 2 when her mother died in a car accident, too young to understand death, old enough to remember the last words. Needed air. Stepping outside, the horrible randomness of loss. You're right, Lena said quietly. That is what people say sometimes, but I'm coming back inside. See? I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? And there it was. The moment of choice. The place where Lena could protect herself by hedging, by leaving room for escape, by keeping options open. Or she could choose them. Completely. Terrifyingly. Irrevocably. She looked at Emma's tear-stained face, at Ethan's desperate hope, at Marcus standing silently behind them, waiting to see what she'd do. "I promise," Lena said. "I'm not going anywhere." Emma launched herself out of Ethan's arms and into Lena's, nearly knocking her over with the force of a small body propelled by relief and trust. Lena caught her, held her close, felt hot tears soaking into her shoulder. "I've got you," Lena murmured. "I've got you, Bug." Over Emma's head, she met Ethan's eyes and saw everything she was afraid to name. Love and gratitude and fear and hope all tangled together into something too big for words. Marcus cleared his throat. "I'll give you 3 a minute. But Lena, we still need to handle the media situation, sooner rather than later." "Then let's handle it." Lena's voice was steadier now. "But on my terms. Not yours. Not Ethan's PR team's. Mine." Marcus actually smiled. "I can work with that." They went back inside. Emma refused to let go of Lena's hand, so they sat squished together in the booth, with Emma basically in Lena's lap. Ethan sat across from them, looking like he wanted to say 1,000 things and couldn't find words for any of them. "I need to call my principal," Lena said, "before she hears my side from a gossip site." "Do you want privacy?" Ethan asked. "No, stay." She pulled out her phone, found Principal Martinez's number, and made the call. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. "Lena, I was hoping you'd call. I know this looks bad. It looks like you're dating someone wealthy, and some website decided that was news. I don't care about your personal life unless it affects your job performance. Does it?" Lena blinked, surprised by the directness. "No, it doesn't." "Then we don't have a problem. Though I do need to ask, is this going to bring media attention to the school? Because we have policies about that." "I hope not. But if it does, I'll handle it." "See that you do." "And Lena, for what it's worth, I've had 3 parents email me today defending you. Apparently their kids won't stop talking about how you helped them learn to read or made math fun or stayed after school to tutor them for free. That's the reputation you have here. Don't let some garbage website make you forget that." Lena's throat went tight. "Thank you. Come see me Monday. We'll make sure you're prepared if any reporters show up. But don't lose sleep over this. You're a good teacher. That's what matters." They hung up. Lena set down her phone and realized she was shaking. "Good news?" Ethan asked carefully. "I'm not fired, and apparently some parents are defending me." "Of course they are. Because you're extraordinary." He reached across the table and took her free hand, the one Emma wasn't clutching. "I'm going to fix this. I promise." "We're going to fix this," Lena corrected. "Together. Because that's what we do now, right? Handle things together?" "Yeah." Ethan's smile was small but genuine. "That's exactly what we do." Emma had fallen asleep against Lena's shoulder, worn out from tears and emotional exhaustion. Marcus returned from yet another phone call and announced that his legal team had already sent cease and desist letters to 3 publications and had social media platforms removing the more invasive posts about Lena's personal information. "We can't stop people from talking," he said, "but we can stop them from posting your address or phone number or other private details. That's harassment, and we have grounds to pursue it legally." "Thank you," Lena said, meaning it. "Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. Once they know you're not going to disappear, they'll dig harder, look for scandals, interview old boyfriends or high school classmates. It's going to get worse before it gets better." Comforting. "I don't do comforting, I do honest." But his expression softened slightly. "You held your ground tonight. That matters. It shows you're not easily intimidated. That'll help." They left the restaurant as a unit, Ethan carrying a sleeping Emma, Marcus running interference with his phone, Lena walking beside them trying to process the fact that her quiet life had just exploded into something unrecognizable. Outside, a camera flashed. Just one, from across the parking lot, but it was enough to make Ethan's entire body go tense. "Marcus," he said quietly. "On it." Marcus moved toward the photographer with the kind of purposeful stride that suggested he'd done this before. "Get in the car," Ethan told Lena. "Please." She wanted to argue, wanted to prove she wasn't afraid, but Emma was asleep and vulnerable, and making a scene in a parking lot wasn't going to help anyone. She got in the car. Ethan secured Emma in her car seat with practiced efficiency, then slid into the driver's seat. Through the windshield, Lena could see Marcus having what looked like a very pointed conversation with the photographer. "Does this happen a lot?" she asked. "More than I'd like, less than it used to. After Rebecca died, it was constant. Every public appearance, every trip to the grocery store. Eventually they got bored and moved on to other targets. But dating again," he gripped the steering wheel. "That's news. That'll bring them back." "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." He looked at her, his expression fierce. "I'm the one who should be apologizing, for not preparing you better, for not protecting you from this." "You can't protect me from everything." "I can try." Marcus returned to the car, slid into the back seat beside Emma without comment. Ethan drove them toward Lena's apartment, the streets quieter now as the city settled into Friday night. At her building, Ethan insisted on walking her to her door despite her protests. Marcus stayed in the car with Emma, who was still sleeping soundly. "I don't want you to be alone tonight," Ethan said as they climbed the stairs. "Not after all this." "I'll be fine." "I know you'll be fine. You're always fine, but you don't have to be." He stopped her at her door, taking both her hands. "Let me take care of you sometimes. Let me be the person you lean on." "I'm not good at that." "I know. But you promised Emma you weren't going anywhere. That means you're stuck with me trying to take care of you. Consider it part of the package deal." Lena managed a weak smile. "Some package deal? Billionaire boyfriend, invasive media coverage, and a 7-year-old who thinks dinosaurs are the answer to everything." "They are the answer to everything. Emma's very clear on that." He pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. "Today was a mess. I know that. But you stayed. Even when it got hard, you stayed. That means everything to me." "I almost didn't." "But you did. That's what counts." They stood in her shabby hallway, surrounded by peeling wallpaper and flickering fluorescent lights, and Lena felt something shift inside her chest. Some old protective wall crumbling just enough to let light through. "Come inside?" she asked quietly. "Just for a few minutes. I need—" She wasn't sure what she needed. Comfort, certainty, proof that this was real. Ethan followed her inside, and Detective Whiskers greeted them with indignant meowing about delayed dinner. Lena fed the cat while Ethan stood in her small living room, looking at her bookshelves and thrift store furniture like he was memorizing every detail. "I like your place," he said. "It's warm, lived in, real. It's small and old, and the water pressure is terrible. It's yours. That makes it perfect." Lena abandoned the cat food and crossed to him, wrapping her arms around his waist and pressing her face against his chest. He held her immediately, one hand stroking her hair with gentle repetition. "I'm scared," she admitted into his shirt. "Me too. What if this doesn't work? What if the media makes it impossible? What if it does work?" he interrupted gently. "What if we figure it out together? What if a year from now we're looking back at this night and laughing about how dramatic it all seemed? That's optimistic. I'm a pessimist who's choosing hope. It's new for me too." They stood like that for a long time, wrapped around each other in her tiny apartment, while the city hummed outside and Detective Whiskers crunched kibble and the world kept spinning despite everything. When Ethan finally left, reluctantly, checking 3 times that she had his number and would call if she needed anything, Lena locked the door and leaned against it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Thank you for staying. Thank you for choosing us. Sleep well." And below that, a photo of Emma still asleep in her car seat, clutching a stuffed dinosaur Lena hadn't noticed before. Lena smiled despite everything and sent back, "Sweet dreams. See you tomorrow." Because somehow, impossibly, they'd made it through the crisis. And she was still here, still trying, still all in. The weekend passed in a strange blur of normalcy punctuated by chaos. Saturday morning, Lena woke to 17 missed calls from numbers she didn't recognize and a text from Claire demanding an immediate emergency brunch. She went, because ignoring Claire was impossible, and spent 2 hours in a crowded cafe explaining everything while her best friend oscillated between excitement and concern. A billionaire, Claire kept saying, like repetition would make it more believable. You're dating an actual billionaire and you didn't tell me. I didn't know at first. And when I found out, everything happened so fast. How does someone not know they're dating a billionaire? Didn't you Google him? I actively avoided Googling him because I didn't want to overthink it. Lena pushed her eggs around her plate. I just wanted him to be Ethan, a single dad who liked books and made terrible jokes, not some corporate titan with a Wikipedia page. Claire reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Hey, he is still that person. The money doesn't change who he is underneath. But, Lena, this is going to be hard. The attention, the scrutiny. Are you sure you're ready for this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. They talked through 2 pots of coffee and a stack of pancakes. Claire insisted Lena eat because stress required carbohydrates. When Lena finally made it home, there was a package waiting outside her door. No return address. Just her name in neat handwriting on expensive paper. Inside was a new phone, top of the line, already activated, and a note in Ethan's handwriting. Your number got leaked. This one's secure. All your contacts are already transferred. Call me when you get this, please. Lena held the phone, torn between gratitude and irritation. She hadn't asked for a new phone, hadn't asked him to fix this particular problem. But he'd done it anyway, probably through whatever team of people he had standing by to handle inconveniences. She called him from the new number. You got it, he said immediately, relief evident in his voice. You can't just buy me a phone without asking. I can if your personal information is being shared online and you need security. He paused. I'm sorry, I should have asked, but I was worried about you getting harassed, and this was the fastest solution. I'm not a problem to be solved, Ethan. I know, but you're someone I care about who's dealing with consequences that are my fault. Let me help, please. Lena sighed, sitting on her worn couch with detective whiskers immediately claiming her lap. The phone is nice, thank you. But you have to stop trying to fix everything. I need to handle some things myself. I'm learning that. It's hard. He sounded tired. Emma wants to know if you're coming over tomorrow. She's planning something she won't tell me about. Lots of markers and construction paper involved. Is this a good idea? Me being around so much? Won't it make things worse with the media? The media is going to be the media regardless. And Emma needs normal. She needs people she loves doing normal things. That includes you. The casual way he included her in Emma's list of loved ones made Lena's chest tight. What time? She asked. Whenever you want. We're not going anywhere. Just a quiet Sunday at home. So Lena went over on Sunday afternoon, half expecting photographers camped outside Ethan's house. Instead, she found a quiet residential street with old trees and carefully maintained homes. Ethan's place was large but not ostentatious, a classic colonial with a wide porch and a yard where Emma's bike lay abandoned in the grass. Emma answered the door before Lena could knock, wearing paint-splattered overalls and a grin that took up half her face. You came! Dad said you might be busy, but I knew you'd come because you promised, and you keep your promises. I do. Lena stepped inside, taking in the warm chaos of a home actually lived in. Toys scattered across the hardwood floors, photographs covering the walls, the smell of something baking. Ethan appeared from the kitchen, flour on his shirt and his hair. We're making cookies, Emma insisted. I'm terrible at it. The recipe says cream the butter, but Dad keeps just stirring it, Emma reported seriously. It's not the same thing. She's right. Creaming is a specific technique. Lena set down her purse. Want some help? What followed was 3 hours of chaotic baking, strategic cookie dough theft, and Emma's elaborate art project that turned out to be a welcome banner for Lena with hand-drawn dinosaurs and approximately 100 glitter hearts. For your apartment, Emma explained, presenting it with ceremony. So you remember we love you even when you're not here. Lena had to excuse herself to the bathroom to cry for 5 minutes because a 7-year-old had just casually said we love you. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. When she emerged, Ethan was waiting in the hallway. She doesn't know she said it, he said quietly. The love thing. It just slipped out naturally. But she meant it. I know. Does that scare you? Terrifies me. Lena looked up at him. But I love her too. I think I have for weeks. And me? The question hung between them, too big and too important for a hallway conversation with cookies burning in the kitchen and a child singing off-key in the living room. Yeah, Lena said softly. You too. Ethan pulled her close and kissed her with a tenderness that made everything else fall away. When they broke apart, Emma was standing at the end of the hallway with her hands on her hips. The cookies are smoking, she announced. You're supposed to watch them, not kiss in the hallway. Multitasking failure, Ethan admitted, jogging toward the kitchen with Emma in pursuit, both of them laughing. Lena followed slower, watching this family she was becoming part of, and felt something settle in her chest. Something like belonging. The burned cookies got scraped into the trash. The second batch turned out perfect. They ate them warm with milk while Emma chattered about her upcoming science project and whether Lena thought teachers would be impressed by a working volcano or a solar system model. Both are impressive, Lena said diplomatically. But which is more impressive? The one you're most excited about making. Emma considered this seriously. The volcano. Because explosions. Solid reasoning, Ethan agreed. When it got late and Emma started yawning between sentences, Lena said her goodbyes. Ethan walked her to her car while Emma watched from the window, waving with her whole arm. She's going to ask if you're moving in soon, Ethan said. Fair warning. We've been dating 6 weeks. I know. But Emma's timeline for these things is different than adults. She decides she loves someone and that's it. Fully committed. Wonder where she gets that from, Lena teased. Ethan smiled, but it faded quickly. There's something I need to tell you. Marcus is still investigating the media leak, trying to figure out who tipped off the gossip site. Does it matter? It's already out there. It matters if someone close to us is selling information. It matters for keeping you and Emma safe. He paused. There's going to be more attention this week. I have a board meeting Thursday that's public record. There will be photographers, questions. I want you prepared. Should I not come to things? Would that help? No. Hiding makes it worse, makes it look like we have something to be ashamed of. He took her hands. I want you there. At my side. Publicly. But only if you're ready. Lena thought about the gossip articles, the invasive questions, the strangers who thought they had a right to her life. Then she thought about Emma's banner with its glitter hearts and hand-drawn dinosaurs, about Ethan's gentle patience and fierce protection, about the family she was building from broken pieces. I'm ready, she said. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Thursday arrived with cold rain and churning anxiety. Lena took a personal day from school, went to the salon Claire recommended, and let professionals do things with her hair and makeup that made her look polished in ways she'd never bothered with before. The dress came from Marcus, delivered by courier with a note. Armor for battle. You've got this. It was navy blue, perfectly tailored, expensive enough that Lena was afraid to look at the label. It fit like it had been made for her, which it probably had been. When Ethan picked her up, his expression made the whole uncomfortable process worthwhile. You look stunning, he said. I look like someone pretending to be fancy. You look like exactly who you are, someone strong enough to stand beside me. The board meeting was at Vale Industries headquarters, a gleaming tower downtown with more glass than seemed structurally sound. Photographers lined the entrance exactly as Ethan had predicted, cameras flashing as they approached. Stay close, Ethan murmured. Don't answer questions, just smile and keep walking. The questions came fast and loud as they moved through the gauntlet. Who are you? How long have you been dating? Is it serious? Are you after his money? What do you teach? How did you meet? Lena kept her head up and her expression neutral, one hand tucked into Ethan's arm. She didn't smile at the cameras because that felt dishonest. She didn't scowl because that would photograph badly. She just existed, visibly, refusing to be ashamed. Inside the building's lobby, Ethan's shoulders relaxed slightly. You did great, he said. I didn't do anything. Exactly. You didn't give them anything to twist. That's perfect. The board meeting itself was in a conference room on the 40th floor with windows overlooking the entire city. Lena sat in the back with Marcus, while Ethan conducted business with the kind of calm authority that reminded her he ran a billion-dollar empire. She watched him present quarterly results, field questions from board members, discuss expansion strategies and market forecasts with the fluency of someone who'd been doing this his entire adult life. This was a version of Ethan she'd never seen. Commanding, decisive, the kind of leader people followed without question. It was impressive. It was also slightly intimidating. When the meeting ended and board members filed out, several approached to introduce themselves and assess Lena with varying degrees of subtlety. She shook hands, made small talk, and tried not to let on that she was memorizing every interaction for later panic analysis. Catherine appeared near the end, impeccable, in a gray suit that probably cost more than Lena's car. "Lena, you look lovely. Walk with me?" It wasn't really a question. They walked through the executive floor, past assistants and glass offices, and the kind of corporate polish Lena had only seen in movies. Catherine maintained pleasant small talk until they reached a private office overlooking the city. "Sit, please," Catherine said, gesturing to a leather chair. Lena sat, wondering if this was the real interrogation, the one that happened away from Ethan's protective presence. "I wanted to apologize," Catherine said, surprising her completely. "For my behavior when we first met. I made assumptions about you that were unfair." "It's okay. You were protecting your family." "I was. But protection and prejudice can look very similar if you're not careful." Catherine sat across from her, expression serious. "Marcus showed me his investigation results. The court documents about your ex-fiancé, the debt you've been paying, the fact that you had no idea who Ethan was when you met him." Lena's stomach tightened. "He investigated me." "He did. And before you're angry, understand that it's standard protocol for anyone entering our family's inner circle. We've been targets before. People who wanted money, access, leverage. We had to be careful." "I'm not after anything." "I know that now. The evidence is quite clear. You've been handling devastating financial consequences with remarkable grace, working multiple jobs, never missing a payment, refusing help even when it would have been reasonable to accept it." Catherine paused. "That's rare. Most people in your situation would have declared bankruptcy or found someone to rescue them. You chose to handle it yourself." "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice. You chose dignity over convenience. That speaks to character." Catherine leaned forward slightly. "I owe you an apology for judging you based on circumstances rather than character. I'm sorry." The apology seemed genuine. Lena didn't quite know what to do with it. "Thank you," she said carefully. "I also want you to understand what you're walking into. Dating Ethan means media attention, yes, but it also means family expectations, board politics, social obligations. People will have opinions about everything you do, wear, say. It's exhausting and invasive, and it never really stops. I'm starting to realize that. Are you prepared for it, truly?" Lena thought about the question seriously. Was she prepared? No. Would she ever be? Probably not. But was she willing to try anyway? "I love him," she said simply. "And I love Emma. That's going to have to be enough because I can't predict the future and I can't promise I won't make mistakes. But I can promise I'll keep showing up. Keep trying. Keep choosing them, even when it's hard." Catherine studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. A real smile, warm and approving. "Good. Because Emma adores you, and that child is an excellent judge of character. Better than her grandmother, apparently." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "Come to dinner next week. Just family. No board members or business associates. I'd like to get to know you properly." "I'd like that." "And Lena? The dress suits you. Keep it." They returned to find Ethan pacing outside Catherine's office, looking worried. When he saw them emerge together, both unscathed, his relief was palpable. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Everything's fine," Catherine said. "We were just getting acquainted. Lena, I'll have my assistant send you details for dinner next week." She left in a swirl of expensive perfume and quiet authority. Ethan looked at Lena. "What just happened?" "I think your mother decided she likes me." "That's good. That's really good." He pulled her close. One more thing to get through today, then we're done. Press conference downstairs, 5 minutes of photos and pre-approved questions. I'll do all the talking. You just stand there and look confident. I don't know how to look confident. You looked confident when you faced down my mother. Just channel that. The press conference was exactly as uncomfortable as expected. Ethan stood at a podium with Lena beside him, photographers jostling for position, reporters shouting questions. He made a brief statement about his relationship with Lena being personal and serious, asked for privacy regarding Emma, and thanked everyone for their time. Then he took Lena's hand and walked out, ignoring the follow-up questions shouted at their backs. In the car, finally alone, Lena felt the adrenaline crash hit. I need food, she said. Real food, not fancy restaurant food. Something terrible for me. Ethan laughed. I know just the place. The place turned out to be a hole-in-the-wall burger joint near the waterfront with plastic tables and a menu written in marker on a whiteboard. They ordered at the counter, got numbers on stands, and sat by a window overlooking the docks. Better? Ethan asked as Lena bit into a burger that was mostly grease and entirely perfect. Much better. She wiped her mouth with a paper napkin. Your family is intense. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. They're just protective. I get it. She paused. Marcus showed your mother his investigation about me. Ethan's expression darkened. He what? It's fine. It actually helped. She saw all the court documents about Jason and the debt. She understands I'm not after your money. He had no right to share that without asking you first. Probably not. But the result was good. She apologized for judging me, invited me to family dinner. I think we're okay now. You're more forgiving than I would be. I'm practical. Marcus did what he thought was necessary. Your mom changed her opinion based on evidence. That's actually pretty reasonable, all things considered. Lena took another bite of burger. The press conference was awful, though. I know. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault. This is just what your life is. I'm choosing to be part of it. That means I'm choosing the hard parts, too. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. I don't deserve you. You absolutely do. Stop with the noble suffering thing. It's not attractive. He laughed, surprised. Yes, ma'am. They finished their burgers in comfortable silence, watching boats move through the harbor. When Ethan's phone rang, he glanced at it and frowned. Marcus, I should take this. Go ahead. Ethan stepped outside and Lena watched through the window as his expression shifted from curious to angry to something harder to define. When he came back inside, his face was carefully neutral. What happened? Lena asked. Marcus found who leaked the story to the gossip site. He sat down heavily. It was my assistant, the one I've worked with for 3 years. She sold photos and information for $10,000. Lena felt her stomach drop. Someone you trusted. Yeah. Ethan's voice was flat. She's been fired. Marcus is handling the legal side, but Lena, she had access to my schedule, my emails. She knew everywhere I was going, who I was meeting. If she sold information about us, what else did she sell? Does this affect Emma? Is she safe? Emma's fine. She was never in danger, but it means I've been compromised for months and didn't know it. It means my judgment was wrong. He looked at her. It means you got dragged into this mess because I didn't protect you well enough. That's not on you? It is, though. I should have been more careful. Should have seen the signs, should have... Stop. Lena's voice was firm. You trusted someone who betrayed you. That's not a failure of judgment. That's them being a terrible person. Don't take responsibility for someone else's choices. You sound like Emma when she's lecturing me about something. Then maybe you should listen to both of us. She squeezed his hand. This is going to be okay. The leak is stopped. The damage is done, but manageable. We move forward. When did you become the optimistic one? About 5 minutes ago. It's new. I might not be good at it yet. They left the burger place and drove back to Ethan's house, where Emma was waiting with Ethan's brother supervising homework. She launched herself at both of them with updates about her day and demands to know if Lena was staying for dinner. If that's okay, Lena said. It's always okay, Ethan replied. So Lena stayed. They made pasta together. Emma insisting on helping despite creating more mess than assistance. They ate at the kitchen table with mismatched plates and conversation that ranged from dinosaur extinction theories to whether chocolate milk counted as a vegetable if it came from cows who ate grass. After dinner, Emma asked if Lena would read her bedtime story. Dad does voices, but you do better character emotions, Emma explained seriously. I need both for a complete experience. So Lena read while Ethan did voices, and Emma fell asleep between them on her bed covered with dinosaur sheets, one hand clutching her stuffed triceratops. They extracted themselves carefully and tiptoed out, leaving the door cracked and the nightlight on. In the hallway, Ethan pulled Lena close. Thank you for today, for standing beside me through all of it, for not running when things got complicated. I promised Emma I wouldn't run. I keep my promises. What about promises to me? What do you want me to promise? He was quiet for a moment, his forehead resting against hers. Promise you'll tell me when this gets too hard, when you need space or help or just someone to listen. Promise you won't suffer in silence trying to be strong enough for all of us. I promise if you promise the same thing. No more trying to fix everything yourself. No more taking responsibility for other people's choices. We handle things together. Deal. They kissed in the dim hallway outside Emma's room, gentle and unhurried, and Lena felt something click into place. Some final piece of herself that had been holding back, finally letting go. When she left that night, driving home through quiet streets in her beat-up car wearing a designer dress, Lena realized she wasn't afraid anymore. The media attention was real. The complications were real. The differences between her world and Ethan's were vast and sometimes overwhelming. But what they had, what they were building together, that was real too. And for the first time in 2 years, Lena believed it might actually be enough. The fragile peace lasted exactly 4 days. Lena was in the middle of teaching fractions to a classroom of increasingly restless third graders when her phone buzzed with an emergency alert. She ignored it. Class time was sacred, but it buzzed again. And again. By the third buzz, half her students were whispering and craning their necks to see. Miss Parker, is everything okay? Asked Sophie, her most perceptive student. Everything's fine. Let's focus on the worksheet, please. But when her phone rang outright during silent reading time, Lena knew something was very wrong. She stepped into the hallway, heart pounding, Marcus's name on the screen. What happened? She answered. Where are you? His voice was clipped, urgent. School. Teaching. Marcus, what's going on? There's a photographer outside your building. He's been asking students about you. The principal is handling it, but you need to know before you walk out there unprepared. Lena's blood went cold. He's talking to my students? Was. Past tense. Security removed him, but he got some footage first. It'll probably be online within the hour. He paused. I'm sending a car to pick you up after school. Don't argue. Just accept the help. I can drive myself, yeah. Lena, please. And the please coming from Marcus carried enough weight that she stopped protesting. Okay, thank you. She returned to class on shaking legs and somehow made it through the rest of the day without completely falling apart. When the final bell rang and her students scattered toward buses and car lines, Principal Martinez appeared in her doorway. My office, now. It wasn't a request. Martinez closed the door behind them and gestured to a chair. A photographer was on campus this morning asking students about you. We removed him immediately and called the police. He's been issued a trespassing warning. I'm so sorry. Stop. You didn't do anything wrong. But Lena, this is a problem. Parents are calling. Some are concerned. Others are excited their kid's teacher is dating someone famous. Either way, it's a distraction. Lena felt her chest tighten with familiar panic. Are you firing me? No. But I need to know this won't become a pattern, that our students won't be used as props in some media circus about your personal life. It won't. I'll make sure of it. How? Martinez's expression wasn't unkind, just tired. How do you control strangers with cameras and no ethics? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. Martinez studied her for a long moment. You're a good teacher, Lena, one of the best I have. Your students adore you, their test scores are excellent, and you stay late to tutor kids who need extra help. I don't want to lose you, but I also can't have this school turned into a media spectacle. So whatever you're going to figure it out fast. The town car Marcus sent was waiting at the curb when Lena finally left the building. The driver, a professional woman in her 40s with kind eyes, opened the door without comment. Inside, Lena found Marcus waiting. "You didn't have to come yourself," she said. "Yes, I did, because you're going to want to punch someone after you see what's online, and I'd rather you punch me than my brother. I can take it." He handed her his phone. The article was on 3 different gossip sites, each with their own inflammatory spin. Billionaire's gold-digging girlfriend exposed. Photos of her school. Screenshots of her modest social media. Quotes from anonymous sources claiming she'd been flirting with wealthy parents for months before meeting Ethan. And worse, much worse, a video of her in the school parking lot, grainy but clear, with a voiceover speculating about whether she was grooming wealthy families through their children. Lena felt bile rise in her throat. They're implying I'm using my students. They're implying a lot of vile things. None of it's true, and we're already taking legal action. But Lena, this is going to get worse before it gets better. These sites make money from outrage. The more you react, the more content they generate. So I just let them destroy my reputation? No. You let my legal team destroy them while you focus on living your life. He took the phone back gently. "Ethan's at home with Emma. He wanted to come get you himself, but I told him you'd probably prefer to fall apart privately before you had to be strong for them. Damn him for being perceptive. I'm not going to fall apart." "Lena, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to feel ambushed and violated and furious that strangers are attacking your character. That's normal. That's human." And somehow, Marcus giving her permission to feel everything she'd been suppressing made the tears come. Hot and fast, and completely beyond her control. She cried in the back of a town car while Marcus handed her tissues and didn't say anything comforting or patronizing. Just let her be angry and scared and overwhelmed without trying to fix it. When she finally stopped, her face was blotchy and her makeup was ruined, and she felt emptied out in a way that was almost cleansing. "Better?" Marcus asked. "Not really, but functional." "Good enough." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "She's okay. We're 5 minutes out." "No, don't hover. Give her space to breathe when she gets there. Because I know you and you'll want to fix everything, and she needs to not be a project right now. So, yes, I'm sure. See you soon." He hung up. "Ethan's been pacing for an hour. Emma made you a card. Fair warning, there's a lot of glitter." Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. She really likes glitter. It's her primary medium. They pulled up to Ethan's house, and true to Marcus's prediction, Ethan was standing on the porch looking like he was physically restraining himself from running to the car. Emma appeared beside him, waving frantically. Lena took a deep breath, wiped her face one more time, and got out. Emma reached her first, crashing into her legs with enough force to nearly knock her over. "Lena, I made you something because Dad said you had a bad day and art helps with bad days." She held up a construction paper card covered in glitter and stickers. Inside, in careful 7-year-old handwriting, "You are the best. Don't let mean people make you sad. Love, Emma." Lena's eyes filled again, but these tears were different. Warmer. "Thank you, Bug. This is perfect. I used all the glitter. Dad said that was probably too much glitter, but I said you can never have too much glitter for important cards." "You were absolutely right." Ethan approached more cautiously, his expression tight with concern. "Hey, are you okay?" "No, but I will be." She looked at Marcus. "Thank you for the rescue." "Anytime. I mean that literally. You have my number. Use it." He nodded to Ethan. "I'll keep you updated on the legal situation. Try not to do anything stupid in the meantime." "That's directed at me, isn't it?" Ethan said. "Obviously." Marcus left. Emma dragged Lena inside to show her the cookies they'd made for emotional support. Ethan followed, hovering like he wanted to wrap her in protective bubble wrap and hide her from the world. After Emma was sufficiently convinced that Lena appreciated both the card and the cookies, she settled in front of the TV with her dinosaur documentary. Ethan pulled Lena into the kitchen under the guise of making tea. "I want to fix this," he said immediately. "Tell me how to fix this." "You can't. That's the problem. These people don't care about truth or fairness. They care about clicks and controversy." "Then I'll buy the sites. Shut them down. I have the resources. Ethan, no. Lena leaned against the counter, exhausted. You can't buy your way out of this. That'll just make it worse. Make it look like we have something to hide. Then what do? We wait. We let Marcus's legal team handle the lies. We live our lives. We don't give them anything else to feed on. That's not enough. It has to be enough because it's all we've got. She looked at him, this man who wanted so desperately to protect her, who was learning that some battles couldn't be won with money or power or force of will. I know this is hard for you. I know you're used to solving problems. But sometimes the only solution is to endure until the storm passes. I hate that. Me too. He pulled her close, and they stood in his kitchen while Emma's documentary played in the other room, and the world outside continued its assault on everything they were trying to build. I have an idea, Ethan said finally. You're going to hate it at first, but hear me out. Lena pulled back to look at him. That's not a promising start. What if we took control of the narrative, did an actual interview with a legitimate journalist, tell our story on our terms instead of letting gossip sites define us? Absolutely not. I knew you'd say that. But think about it. Right now, you're a character in a story other people are writing, some mysterious woman who came out of nowhere. But if we tell the truth, how we met, what happened with your ex, why we're together, we take away their power. Or we give them more ammunition. Not if we're honest. Not if we show them exactly who you are. A teacher who got screwed over by someone she trusted and is rebuilding her life with integrity and grace. You're making me sound like a Hallmark movie character. You're making yourself sound like one. You're the one doing the hard work. I just want people to see it. Lena wanted to refuse outright. The idea of sitting down with a journalist and sharing her most painful experiences felt like volunteering for emotional evisceration. But she also understood Ethan's point. The gossip sites were filling the silence with speculation. Maybe the truth, controlled and careful, was actually the safer option. If I agree to this, and I'm not saying I am, I get to approve the journalist. I get to veto questions, and nothing about Emma beyond the basic fact that you're a devoted father. Done. All of it. Whatever you need. He paused. There's something else. Marcus found something during his investigation about your debt. Lena stiffened. What about it? Your ex-fiancé, Jason. He's done this before. Used other women's identities for fraud. There's a pattern going back years, multiple victims. The kitchen tilted sideways. What? Marcus connected with a few of them. They're willing to testify if you want to pursue legal action. There's a chance, a real chance, you could get a judgment against him. Maybe not full restitution, but something. Where's he? Phoenix. Working under an assumed name, but Marcus's investigators found him. Ethan's expression was carefully neutral. I can make this go away. The debt, I mean. I can write a check right now and it's done. Or we can pursue him legally and make him accountable. Your choice. Completely your choice. Lena's mind was spinning. Other victims. Years of fraud. A pattern of devastation. I need to think about this. Of course. Take all the time you need. He hesitated. But Lena, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. Whatever you decide, I'm here. Marcus is here. We'll support whatever choice you make. Even if I choose to just walk away, let it go and move on, even then. They were interrupted by Emma calling from the living room. Dad, Lena, the documentary is talking about the asteroid. You have to see this. They joined her on the couch, Emma wedged between them, pointing excitedly at the screen as the narrator described extinction-level events with dramatic music. It was absurd and perfect, and exactly the distraction Lena needed. Later, after Emma went to bed and the house settled into quiet, Ethan and Lena sat on the back porch with tea and the weight of decisions unmade. I want to talk to them, Lena said finally. The other women Jason defrauded? I want to know their stories. Marcus can arrange it. And I think I want to pursue legal action, not for the money. I don't know if I'll ever see a cent, but for the accountability. So he can't do this to someone else. That's brave. That's terrifying. But I'm tired of being a victim, tired of letting him define this part of my life. She looked at Ethan. and about the interview. Let's do it. But I want to talk about more than just our relationship. I want to talk about fraud victims, about how the system fails people who get scammed, about turning pain into purpose. Ethan's smile was slow and genuine. I love you. Did I mention that today? Not since this morning. Well, I love you. Stupidly. Completely. In a way that probably isn't healthy, but I don't care anymore. I love you too. Even though you have terrible ideas about media interviews. They're growing on you. They're really not. But she was smiling, and some of the weight had lifted, and for the first time since the photographer had shown up at her school, Lena felt like maybe they could actually survive this. The interview was scheduled for the following week with a respected journalist known for thoughtful, in-depth profiles rather than sensationalism. Marcus vetted her thoroughly. Catherine provided media coaching. Emma demanded to know if she could be on TV and was disappointed to learn the answer was no. In the meantime, Marcus's legal team filed defamation suits against the 3 worst gossip sites. 2 settled immediately, issuing retractions and paying damages that went directly into a legal fund for fraud victims. The 3rd dug in, which meant depositions and discovery and the slow grind of litigation. Lena met with the other women Jason had defrauded, 4 of them, scattered across 3 states, each with variations of the same heartbreaking story. Stolen identities, massive debts, years of rebuilding. They formed a strange support group, these women connected by betrayal, and together they built a case that was airtight and devastating. When the investigator finally located Jason in Phoenix, working as a car salesman under a fake name, Lena felt a rush of vindication so powerful it almost scared her. "We've got him," Marcus said over the phone. "Multiple counts of identity theft, fraud, and financial abuse across state lines. The DA is very interested. He's looking at serious prison time." "Good." Lena's voice was steady. "He should be accountable. Not just to me, but to everyone. He will be, I promise." The day of the interview, Lena woke up nauseous with anxiety. She'd prepared for weeks, practiced answers, reviewed talking points, worked with Catherine on presentation and body language. But knowing she was about to share her story with potentially millions of people made her want to hide under her bed and never come out. Ethan found her in the bathroom, staring at her reflection like it belonged to a stranger. "Second thoughts?" he asked gently. "10th thoughts. Maybe 20th. We can cancel, right now. 1 phone call, and it's done." "No, I need to do this. I need people to know the truth." She turned to face him. "I just wish I felt braver about it." You're the bravest person I know. You show up every single day, even when it's terrifying. That's real courage." "Or stupidity." "Sometimes they're the same thing." The interview took place in Ethan's home, neutral territory that felt safe. The journalist, a woman in her 50s named Patricia Chen, had built a career on empathetic storytelling. She made Lena feel heard rather than examined. They talked for 3 hours. Lena shared everything: the blind date she'd tried to sabotage, the shock of discovering Ethan's wealth, the media storm that followed, and deeper, the story of Jason's betrayal, the crushing debt, the years of working multiple jobs while watching her credit score crater through no fault of her own. She talked about the shame that came with financial devastation, the way people assumed you must have been stupid or careless to end up in that situation, the isolation of carrying that burden alone. And she talked about finding Ethan and Emma, about learning to trust again, about building something real from broken pieces. Ethan joined for part of the interview, his hand steady in hers as he talked about falling in love with her authenticity, about watching her show up for Emma with such genuine care, about building a family that honored the past while embracing the future. When it was over, Lena felt wrung out and exhausted and cautiously hopeful. "That was good," Patricia said as her crew packed equipment. "Really good. Human and honest and exactly what people need to hear." The article published 3 weeks later on a Sunday morning. Lena read it on Ethan's couch while he made breakfast, and Emma did homework at the kitchen table. It was fair and thoughtful and presented her exactly as she'd hoped, not as a victim or a gold digger, but as a survivor building a new life. The comments section was mixed, as expected. Some people were supportive, others remained skeptical, but the overall narrative had shifted. She was no longer just the mysterious woman dating a billionaire. She was Lena Parker, 3rd-grade teacher and fraud survivor, someone with depth and history and agency. The article also mentioned, briefly but prominently, the upcoming legal case against Jason and the support fund they were establishing for other fraud victims. Within 24 hours, the fund had received over $50,000 in donations. By the end of the week, Patricia's article had been shared over 2 million times, and Lena's principal called to say that several parents had specifically requested their children be placed in her class next year because they wanted their kids learning from someone who demonstrated resilience and integrity. "You did it," Claire said over celebratory drinks that Friday. "You actually pulled it off. You took control of the narrative and won." We'll see. The gossip sites are still running stories. Jason's trial won't be for months. There's a long way to go. But you're not running. You're not hiding. That's winning in my book. Lena thought about that as she drove to Ethan's house later that evening. About how winning didn't look like she'd expected. It wasn't about silencing critics or erasing the past. It was about showing up authentically and letting the truth speak for itself. When she arrived, Emma was waiting on the porch with barely contained excitement. Lena, Dad has something to ask you, and he's been weird all day about it." "Emma," Ethan called from inside, "we talked about this. You were going to let me do it on my own timeline." "Your timeline is too slow. She's here now." Lena climbed the porch steps, heart suddenly racing. "What's going on?" Ethan appeared in the doorway, looking nervous in a way she'd never seen. He was holding something small, and Emma was literally bouncing with anticipation. "Okay," he said. "This isn't how I planned this. I had a whole speech prepared and a fancy dinner reservation, and Emma, stop bouncing. Just ask her. Emma Grace Vale, go inside. But I want to see inside, now. You can watch from the window." Emma huffed but obeyed, pressing her face against the glass and grinning like this was the best show ever. Ethan took Lena's hands. "Sorry, she's been impossible to contain since I told her." "Told her what?" "That I was going to do this." He took a breath. "Lena, 6 months ago I met you in a coffee shop and you were dressed like you didn't want anyone to notice you. But I noticed. I noticed how brave you were, showing up even though you were scared. How honest you were, even when it would have been easier to lie. How you loved Emma before you knew loving her was part of loving me." "Ethan, let me finish before I lose my nerve." His smile was shaky. "You've been through hell and come out fighting. You faced media scrutiny and family skepticism and every possible obstacle, and you're still here, still showing up, still choosing us even when it's hard. And I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you back, learning with you, building with you, being brave enough to deserve you." He dropped to one knee and Lena's hands flew to her mouth. "Marry me. Not because I want to rescue you or fix your problems or play hero. Marry me because you make me laugh and you call me on my nonsense and you're the best partner I could imagine for this messy, complicated, beautiful life. Marry me because Emma adores you and I love you, and together we're something neither of us could be alone." He opened the small box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, with a single stone that caught the porch light. "It's not flashy," he said quickly. "I know some people expect big, elaborate. It's perfect." Lena was crying, but these were the good kind of tears, the kind that came from joy rather than pain. "It's absolutely perfect." "So is that a yes?" "Yes. Obviously yes. Did you really think I'd say anything else?" "I've learned not to make assumptions with you." She pulled him up and kissed him while Emma cheered from inside the house, and Detective Whiskers, who Lena had been bringing to family dinners, meowed indignantly from his carrier on the porch. When they broke apart, Emma burst through the door. "Can I call you Mom now? Dad said I had to wait until you said yes, but you said yes, so can I?" Lena's heart stopped. "Emma, you don't have to. I want to. I mean, if that's okay. Because you do mom things. You read bedtime stories and help with homework and make sure I eat vegetables. And you love Dad and you love me, and that's what moms do, right?" Lena knelt down to Emma's level, this fierce little girl who'd lost so much and still had enough hope to build a family from whatever pieces she found. "I would be honored to be your mom, if you're sure." "I'm sure. I've been sure since the bookstore. I just had to wait for Dad to catch up." "Hey," Ethan protested. "I caught up pretty fast." "You took 6 months. That's forever." That's actually pretty fast for adults, Bug. They went inside as a family, newly formed but somehow feeling inevitable. Emma insisted on calling everyone to share the news. Catherine cried. Marcus said something dry about finally making it official. Claire screamed so loud Lena had to hold the phone away from her ear. Later, after Emma finally went to bed and the house settled into quiet, Ethan and Lena sat on the couch with her hand in his, the ring catching lamplight. I have something else for you, he said, and before you get defensive, just listen. That's still not a promising start. He handed her a folder. It's from Marcus's legal team, a proposal. Inside were documents establishing a foundation, the Second Chance Fund, dedicated to supporting fraud victims with legal assistance, credit counseling, and financial education. The initial endowment was substantial, funded entirely by Ethan's personal wealth. But the kicker was the last page. The foundation's director position offered to Lena with a salary that would finally let her breathe, let her pay off her remaining debt, let her help others the way she'd needed help years ago. You want me to run this? She said carefully. I want to offer you the choice. You can keep teaching, you're incredible at it. Or you can do this. Help people on a larger scale. Turn everything you survived into something that helps others survive too. He paused. No pressure, no expectations. Just an option. Lena stared at the papers, emotions churning. This was what she'd needed years ago. What every person drowning in unearned debt needed. Legal support, financial guidance. Someone in their corner fighting for justice. I could do both, she said slowly. Teach part-time. Run the foundation part-time. Build something sustainable. You could do whatever you want. That's the whole point. She looked at him. This man who'd learned to offer help without imposing it, to support without controlling, to love without rescuing. Okay, she said. Let's do it. Let's build something that actually helps people. Yeah? Yeah. But I'm keeping my apartment for another 6 months. We're moving slowly into the living together thing. Emma needs time to adjust, and I need to not feel like I'm being rushed. Whatever timeline you need. And we're having a small wedding, not some huge society event, just family and friends. Already told my mother the same thing. She's disappointed, but she'll survive. And Emma gets to be involved in all the planning. This affects her as much as us. She'll love that. She's already picking out flower girl dresses in her mind. They kissed, sealing promises and futures, and Lena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, but certainty. Certainty that she'd found people worth fighting for, worth being vulnerable with, worth building a life alongside even when it was terrifying and complicated, and nothing like she'd planned. 6 months later, they stood in the botanical garden where Ethan had once tried to block a photographer's shot. But this time, the only cameras belonged to their wedding photographer, carefully vetted by Marcus. And the guests were people who actually loved them. Emma walked down the aisle first in a purple dress she'd insisted on because dinosaurs would want bold color choices, carrying a bouquet of wildflowers and grinning at everyone like she was personally responsible for the whole celebration, which, in a way, she was. Lena followed in a simple ivory dress, clutching a bouquet that Claire had somehow kept from wilting despite spring humidity. Her students had made her a card signed by all 32 of them. Her principal had given her a gift certificate for date nights. The other fraud survivors she'd connected with had sent a group message of support and love. And Ethan waited at the end of the aisle with tears on his face and a smile that made every hard moment worth it. They said their vows quietly, promises about showing up and choosing each other and building something real from broken pieces. Emma stood between them, holding both their hands, officially part of every promise they made. When the officiant pronounced them married, Emma cheered before anyone else could applaud. The reception was small and warm and filled with laughter. Catherine gave a speech about being wrong in the best possible way. Marcus toasted to stubborn people who refused to give up on each other. Claire made everyone cry with stories about Lena's resilience. And when it was time for the first dance, Emma insisted on being included, so they danced as a family of 3 while Detective Whiskers supervised from a corner carrier, and the world outside continued spinning without them. Later, during a quiet moment while guests mingled and Emma showed off her dancing skills, Ethan pulled Lena aside. Happy? He asked. Terrified. But happy. Good terrified or bad terrified? Good. The kind that means I'm taking a risk that matters. She looked at Emma twirling with Marcus, at Catherine laughing with Claire, at all these people who'd become family through choice and effort and showing up even when it was hard. We did it. We actually built something real. We're still building it every day. Yeah, but now we're building it together, officially. 6 months after that, the Second Chance Fund opened its doors with Lena as director. The foundation helped 73 people in its first year, providing legal support, credit counseling, and advocacy for fraud victims who'd been abandoned by systems that should have protected them. Jason was convicted on 18 counts of fraud and identity theft. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution to all his victims. Lena would probably never see most of the money she was owed, but watching him held accountable felt like its own form of justice. Emma thrived in third grade with a different teacher because Lena had scaled back to teaching 3 days a week and running the foundation the other 2. She still loved her students, still stayed late to help kids who struggled, but now she also helped their parents navigate financial crises and fight back against predatory systems. And at night, she went home to Ethan's house, which was now their house, and to Emma's latest dinosaur facts, and to a life that looked nothing like what she'd planned and everything like what she needed. On their first anniversary, they returned to the coffee shop where it all started. Emma was with Marcus for the evening, giving them time alone. "You still dress better for dates now," Ethan teased as they sat in the same booth. "I was trying to scare you away. Best plan that ever backfired." "Second best. The best was deciding to trust you even though every instinct said not to." "Thank you for that. For taking the risk. For giving us a chance." Lena looked at him. Her husband, her partner, her family, and thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Broken and defensive and so afraid of being hurt again that she dressed to repel connection. That woman had been brave in ways she hadn't recognized. Brave enough to show up even when she expected disappointment. Brave enough to let someone see her when she was at her worst. Brave enough to choose hope when fear would have been easier. "Thank you for seeing me," she said quietly. "The real me. Not the person I was pretending to be or the person I thought I should become. Just me. Exactly as I was. You made it easy. You were always exactly yourself. That's what I fell in love with." They ordered coffee, both still black, no sugar, and talked about everything and nothing. About Emma's upcoming science fair project, about the foundation's expansion plans, about whether they should get a dog or if Detective Whiskers would stage a coup. And when they left the coffee shop and walked to their car, Lena's beat-up sedan had finally died, replaced by something reliable but still modest. Ethan stopped her under a street light. "I love you," he said. "I know I say it all the time, but I want you to hear it again. I love you for exactly who you are, for your stubbornness and your strength and your refusal to let anyone rescue you, for the way you love Emma, for the way you show up every single day and choose us even when we're complicated. I love you too. Even though you have terrible ideas about media interviews and you think money solves everything and you hover too much when Emma has a cold. I do not hover. You absolutely hover. That's just good parenting. It's hovering." They laughed and kissed under the streetlight, and Lena thought about how far she'd come from that first coffee date. How she'd chosen trust over safety, vulnerability over protection, love over fear. And how that choice, terrifying and uncertain and completely worth it, had given her everything she'd been too afraid to want. A family built from broken pieces. A purpose built from pain. A life built from the courage to try again. She'd shown up to a blind date dressed to fail, and somehow, impossibly, she'd won. Not because she'd found someone to rescue her or fix her or complete her, but because she'd found someone who saw her completely and chose to build something alongside her. Someone who understood that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments, but about showing up consistently, even when it was hard. And in the end, that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.